3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a very busy Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and, of course, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. jam-packed show today. Got Moist Mike and also Stuart Kovacs rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Greg McElroy will join us at the top of the hour. Jason Avant will stop by at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. And we got a whole lot to do today because I'm making this claim, and I think it's true. But even if it's not true, I'm going to tell you it's true. I'm pretty sure I'm the only national radio host or radio host, period, in the country that Saturday was at Michigan, Ohio State, storming the field, may I add you. And then on Sunday in Philadelphia for that classic game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills. So I was at both games. We'll talk about both games today. Alabama fans, don't worry, we'll be all over that crazy finish to the Iron Bowl, which I still can't believe, with the big-time Jalen Milroe touchdown pass to keep Alabama's season alive. Now, the SEC championship game this weekend, Alabama and Georgia. We had another coach get fired today as David Tepper continues to be the most incompetent owner in the NFL. So there's a whole lot cooking. We appreciate you listening to us today. And also, not only that, we want to wish you a happy belated Thanksgiving. It's crazy. Our last show was on Wednesday, and then a lot of crap has happened from Thursday all the way up until this Monday. But I got to start with the game that I was at last night in South Philadelphia, as there's really two takeaways. One of the takeaways on the Buffalo side, the Bills are screwed. The other takeaway is on the Eagles side, where I think people are getting tired of hearing me say this, but I say it each and every week. The Eagles haven't played their best brand of football yet, and they are still 10-1, and they only have one loss on the season. And maybe the more and more I say that, the more and more the Eagles aren't going to play their best brand of football, and it will still be good enough, and the Eagles will continue to have performances like they had up against Kansas City, like they had up against the Buffalo Bills, and the question just becomes, will they eventually get burned by it? Because what we realized from this past weekend, there's not a lot of good teams, there's not a lot of great teams in the NFL. And in the AFC, it's a giant question mark. It is a giant enigma on who is going to find a way to get to the Super Bowl. But in the NFC, I think it's pretty clear it's coming down to the game that we're going to see this weekend between the Eagles and the 49ers. And not that it decides who goes to the Super Bowl this weekend, but you'll probably have an NFC championship game rematch, and you'll see one of those two teams get to the Super Bowl. But let's start with Buffalo. You know, last year in the NFC, when you went into the season, you thought the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Rams, those would be the three teams that would be your Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. And when you look back at that statement, well, the Rams missed the playoffs, the Buccaneers barely made the playoffs, and the Packers missed the playoffs. The reason why I say that and lay that out is because going into the season in the AFC, if I said to you, who are the three teams that you could see, you could envision getting to a Super Bowl, you would say Kansas City, the Cincinnati Bengals, and then also the Buffalo Bills. And the Bengals now have lost Joe Burrow for the season. They're not making the playoffs. The Chiefs have not played great, but it still may be better than everybody else's in the AFC. And then you look at the Buffalo Bills, the Bills have been an enormous disappointment. The Bills are actually the biggest disappointment in football this season. And I say that knowing that heading into the season, this wasn't 2 years ago where everyone was picking them to go to the Super Bowl. The expectations were thrown down a little bit. They were taking a notch down on the Buffalo Bills. But with that being said, no one was predicting the Buffalo Bills to miss the playoffs. And right now, with 5 weeks left in their season, the Buffalo Bills are not going to make the playoffs. I would be shocked. And I like this Buffalo team. I like Josh Allen. You know, Deion Dawkins, one of my good friends. This defense has just been killed with injuries. Stephon Diggs is a heck of a player. But this team has been an up and down ride all throughout the year. And they have never found a way to get behind the turbulence and get past the turbulence and have some smooth sailing. Because sometimes when you're on a flight, it's a little bit bumpy in the beginning, a little bit bumpy in the middle, but then eventually it smooths out and you find the right level traveling through air, and then you make the landing and it's a fine flight. The Buffalo Bills have been such a disaster this year. They're 6-6, and I know you could say, but Zach, 6-6, they only need 4 more wins. If they get 4 more wins, even though it's not a lock, 10 wins gets you in the playoffs this year in the AFC, you should feel decent about them. But at 6-6 right now, and they're now going into a bye week. The next time we'll see them on the field is week 14. With 5 games remaining for Buffalo, why should I trust them to go make the playoffs? I don't. They play Kansas City coming out of the bye in Arrowhead. Then they go up against the Dallas Cowboys. Then they go to Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium up against the Chargers. And they play the Pats. And then they're in Miami against the Dolphins. So you have 2 games that you could say, yeah, easy games. The Chargers and the Patriots. They should beat the Chargers and the Patriots. But that only gets you to 8. So then you're going to have to take 2 out of 3 up against Kansas City, Dallas, and Miami. So the Buffalo Bills are going to need to go 4-1 in their next 5. With how I've watched them this year, I would be shocked. My jaw would hit the floor, even with some of the talent on this team, even with the way Josh Allen at times last night was surgical, and he put his Superman cape on. He had 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns came on third down. Like, he was phenomenal at times in the game. He got over the interception. But at the end of the game, where now he's 0-5 since the overtime rules have changed because of him and the Buffalo Bills in overtime, he's 0-5. And even with Josh Allen being great at times in the games, in the game last night, with the game on the line, they could have walked off. They could have got their 7th win on the season. They could have been 7-5. And then today's show is totally different. Maybe the Bills are starting to turn around. Maybe Buffalo is starting to hit their groove at the right time of the season, even though it wasn't great against the Jets. They beat the Jets 32-6, and then they would have got that win up against the Eagles. This is a different tune that we're singing today on the Buffalo Bills. But their margin of error was already on life support. Now it's shot. Now it's finish. You got to go 4-1 in these next 5 games, and I just don't see how that's going to happen. And with that game on the line last night in Buffalo, where you could have had a walk-off touchdown, Gabe Davis was wide open. And either Gabe Davis turned the wrong way or Josh Allen threw the ball the wrong way. Because that should have been a touchdown. And when you give a little sliver of hope to the Eagles, when you give them an opportunity to go put the nail in the coffin, you knew that Jalen Hurts, who was just playing great football and dealing still with an injury and limping around, you knew Jalen Hurts, bare minimum, was going to march down the field and get a field goal. Not only did he march down the field, he got a touchdown, and he said bye-bye to the Buffalo Bills. And the Eagles continue to fly high at 10-1. I don't know. Maybe I'm watching something different. Maybe people last night, they go, oh, moral victory. Buffalo's turning around. It's too little too late. They're going to have to beat Chargers, Patriots, without a doubt. And then take 2 out of 3 against Kansas City, Dallas, and Miami. And let me remind you, Miami's looking for payback, and Miami's played well against Buffalo the last 2 years, but Miami got blown out early in the season back in week 4, 48-20. So the odds of Miami losing 2 games to Buffalo in the regular season, it's probably not going to happen. Kansas City, they got a really damn good defense. Their offense, it's been a big question mark. The Dallas Cowboys, I know I'm probably the biggest critic of the Dallas Cowboys. They're a good team, not a great team, but they're better right now than the Buffalo Bills. So there's no reason to trust this Buffalo team. And quite frankly, you watched the game last night, it was the Josh Allen show. And Josh Allen, when you are riding the Josh Allen show, will make some phenomenal plays, some ridiculous plays, some plays that say that's why he's one of, if not the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL. But they just don't find a way to win the games. Like, you go through the last few years, every time there's a close, big game with something on the line and Buffalo's in that game, it feels like they lose it. Outside of Kansas City in the regular season, where last year Von Miller came off the edge and then Teron Johnson stepped in front of the football and stepped in front of the player and picked off the pass, where Patrick Mahomes got rushed into making a bad decision. But that's in the regular season. Buffalo didn't even get back to an AFC Championship game. They lost in the second round, where they were lucky to even get to the second round because Miami almost beat them with Skylar Thompson, a third-string quarterback, for crying out loud. And then the following week after that, Cincinnati just steamrolled them in their own house. And it was a lethargic, putrid, and just anemic performance by the Buffalo Bills. But last night, that's as gut-wrenching as they come. You know, I know that the Bills have had some brutal losses. I'm not saying that was to the magnitude of the 13-second being up, basically going right to the AFC Championship against Kansas City, and then just having your soul snatched from you. But last night, you look at the numbers, you look at the stats, and that's why Belichick says stats are for losers. Everything indicates that the Buffalo Bills should have won the game. And I didn't have a good feel on this on Friday. You know, when I was here on Wednesday, did not make a pick on the game. But yesterday, when I was in the parking lot in Philadelphia and it was raining before the game, I thought to myself that Buffalo was going to win. I said it to a few of my friends that are Eagles fans. I said, Buffalo's going to win this game. Lane Johnson's out. Eagles are due to lose a game after the craziness of, I know they had a bye week, and then they go beat Kansas City, but off the craziness of that Kansas City game, I just thought Philadelphia was going to lose. And when it looked like the Eagles were going to lose, Jalen Hurts said, not so fast. And that's the other side of this. In a year where this feels open, in a year where there's not many elite teams when we come off the first week after Thanksgiving, I can't see that many teams getting in the Super Bowl. In the AFC, at one point over the weekend, Jacksonville was the number 1 overall seed. And I'll stand by this. I think the only two teams that I can envision right now going to the Super Bowl out of the AFC are Kansas City and the Baltimore Ravens right now. And in the NFC, early in the week or last week, I said Eagles, 49ers, and Lions. And I'm not going to crush the Lions. It's a bad performance. You split up against the Packers. It's a divisional game. That happens. But in a big moment like that, everyone watching, Thanksgiving Day, first game of the 3-game slate, you got to win that game. And Green Bay was just that much better than them in that contest on Thursday as I was getting ready to eat my lasagna and Samter was ready to eat his overrated turkey. So, it's tough. Like, am I going to really sit here now and say that I can still see the Lions going Super Bowl? I guess anything could happen, but I'm not going to right now. So that then narrows it down to 4 teams that I could see actually getting the Super Bowl this year. Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles, and 49ers. And Philadelphia, they're so dangerous because last year they were blowing everybody out. And now they have that experience. We know they have a few guys still on the roster that won a Super Bowl back in Super Bowl 52. But now they've been in so many close games where they have not played clean games. And I talked to Son Reddick last night after the game. He's like, this is the NFL. It's not always pretty. It's not always going to be like last year. But all that matters is this group's going to fight. And at the end of the game, we're going to find a way to walk out with the victory. And even talking to Nick Sirianni last night after the game, when I got a chance to catch up with him, he reiterated that to me. He goes, there's a lot of guys that played at Alabama on this team. There's a lot of guys that played at Georgia on this team. There's some guys that played on the Super Bowl team. And then this team got to the Super Bowl last year. There's a lot of experience there. And in a year where maybe you don't have to be great to win, and we see that from time to time, you maybe just have to be good, and you may just have to be able to pull out sloppy victories. No team does that better this year in the NFL than the Philadelphia Eagles. They're 10-1. Just look at the last 2 weeks. Down big up against Kansas City, up against Mahomes, did not matter. The other day, a sloppy, rainy game without your right tackle, one of the better players in football, one of the more important players in football, in Lane Johnson, did not matter. And you got into a shootout with the Buffalo Bills, and Jalen Hurts just found a way to make the plays with the game on the line. And Jake Elliott with that big kick to get the game to overtime. So those are the path right now of both those teams. Eagles, it looks like they should be marching right back to the Super Bowl. Now, they may give you a few heart attacks along the way, some sports heart attacks when you're watching them, but I feel pretty damn good and pretty confident about saying when we go out to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl that Philadelphia is going to be there. And then on the other side, when you look at Buffalo, I just don't see the way and I don't see the road for them to get there because they're going to have to win 4 to 5. This team is not winning 4 out of 5. They have been too up and down this year for me to trust them to win 4 out of 5 games against Kansas City, Dallas, Los Angeles, the Pats, and then Miami. And Josh Allen, as great as he played in the game last night, as awesome and as surgical as he was on third down, it's going to be remembered either Gabe Davis turned the wrong way or you threw the ball the wrong way with the miscommunication. And that's a shame of it. You got to hit that touchdown. When Gabe Davis is that open, I don't care, receiver's fault, quarterback's fault, you got to be on the same page. They've been playing together for way too long for that to happen in a big moment like that. And it once again just reiterates why Sean McDermott, if the Bills know what they're doing, and I'm a big fan of Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott's a good guy, good coach. And I was advocating for him for years before he even got a head coaching job. But he has reached his apex in Buffalo. I said this back in September when they lost that first game of the year to the Jets. They got to go get Jim Harbaugh. We'll see if that's going to be in play because who the heck knows what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. Is he going to go back to the NFL? Is he going to stay at Michigan? And that pending battle with the NCAA. Buffalo, not going to be a postseason year. Eagles could be your second Lombardi trophy coming back to South Philadelphia. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Where's your confidence level at with Buffalo and Philadelphia after watching them last night? We'll take a break. When we come on back, we'll discuss the future of Ryan Day, as it wasn't his day, as Ohio State once again lost to the Michigan Wolverines for the third year in a row. We're talking about the Buckeyes coach next. It is the Zach Gelb Show, off and running, very busy Monday edition. Greg McElroy going to join us at the top of the hour, and Jason Avant will stop by in hour number 3.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
The winner of the SEC championship game will be in the college football playoff. There is no way, a 0.0% chance, that if Alabama wins the Iron Bowl and then defeats the best team in the country in Georgia, and they have one loss that occurred in September, there's no way the guys in charge of the College Football Playoff Committee don't find a way to put Alabama in the top 4.
Here's Zach Gelb.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. I will talk about Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes in just a second. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let me take one call, though, here first with Dave in Pennsylvania, who's on CBS Sports Radio with Zach Gelb. Dave, what's happening?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing great, Dave. What do you got?
Hey, I heard you say that it was Hurts who won the game last night. I don't agree. Those refs did not help at all. The one scene, the ref was standing 8 feet behind the receiver. It was obviously pass interference. They didn't call it. They could have called that a horse collar on Josh Allen. Now, I'm not saying Buffalo did a great job. I think they should fire the wide receivers coach because obviously the wide receivers don't know what they're doing. There's just a lot of crap with Buffalo, but yeah, just I agree.
Are you a Bills fan, Dave? Just wondering.
I'm a big Bills fan.
So you're blaming last night's game. You think the main reason the Bills lost last night is because of the officials?
No, I'm saying that's one of the reasons. A lot of it also comes with the coaching squad. Why don't they ever give James Cook, dump it down to James Cook?
Yeah. Where was Dalton Kincaid in the second half? I had Dalton Kincaid anytime touchdown, and Dalton Kincaid's been really cruising. But where was Dalton Kincaid in the second half? I don't know if he suffered an injury or whatnot, but man, they got to get him the ball more. I don't look at last night, and don't get me wrong, the officiating across the NFL is atrocious. It really is. It feels like it's as bad as I could ever remember. And I still don't get what happened at the end. I was sitting in the press box next to James Palmer, the NFL Network, and Ralph Facciano, both to cover football for years. And we were all confused on what did transpire with the intentional grounding. And I read after the game that Josh Allen, according to Josh Sweat, was begging the officials to throw the intentional grounding. So I walked over to Hassan Reddick's locker, and he was like, it's BS, it's bull bleep, because he didn't get credit for a sack. Now, I do think it was a horse collar tackle, let me be clear. And I don't think intentional grounding should have been thrown. But even with all that being said, bad calls happen. It's a part of the sport. It stinks. It's sucky. There's no doubt about it. But it is a part of the sport. Now, a lot of them are egregious. Some of them get overblown. But with that being said, no one's bitching and complaining about the officials today. No Bills fan is calling into CBS Sports Radio and saying, hey, the officials were horrible. One of the reasons we lost the game. If Gabe Davis and Josh Allen just get on the same page. They got to be on the same page. And usually that stuff evens out. And it did feel like the officiating was one-sided last night. Totally get it. I will fully admit that. But Josh Allen hits Gabe Davis in the end zone, or if Davis turns the wrong way, anyone talking about the officials today? No. But that's what losers do. You talk about the officials when your team doesn't win. Even with all the bad officiating, you got to find a way to hit a wide open wide receiver. Bills do that, they win the game. They didn't, they give the Eagles life. Eagles march the ball right down the field, bypass the field goal, and put the ball right in the end zone. All righty, let's get to Ohio State. First off, O-H-N-O! That was one of the great moments on Saturday. So where I was seated, I was 13 rows off the field. I was in the end zone. And we were adjacent. It must have been a travel section for Ohio State. I'm going to like to assume it wasn't a friend and family section. But maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't. I thought they were just real passionate Ohio State fans that made the trip up. And about like 100 of them seated right next to me. So I'm watching that game unfold. And when I was in the stadium, regardless of what the score said, it just felt like Michigan was the better team. And it was a raucous atmosphere. And I never thought Michigan was going to lose the game until that final drive where McCord hits a man, the man fumbles the ball, it's jarred loose, Ohio State recovers it. When that happens, I'm like, oh my God, they're 30, 40 yards out of a touchdown in a game that they should not be winning, in a game where they were never in control, they never had a lead for a second. They're going to go find a way to put the ball in the end zone and win the game, and Michigan's going to be finished. That was the only time I thought they were going to lose. And then the interception happens at the end of the game. And then I politely turned to all those 100 fans that were sitting next to me in Ohio State garb, and I was on top of the bleachers just screaming, O-H-N-O! And we were having some good banter back and forth. It was very respectful, I will say. And Harbaugh made a point about how it gets played up for the TV cameras a little bit. With everything that was happening with the cheating scandal, I thought this was going to be, and I don't believe in like stupid fan behavior, getting into fights at games. Just have some good-natured trash talking, and then sometimes people take it too far. I thought this was going to be like a bloodbath on the field and a bloodbath in the stands. But for the most part, from what I've seen, I'm sure there could be a video that contradicts that, things like that. But from my vantage point where I was, I thought for the most part it was healthy, it was fun, and it was everything that college football should be about. But at the end of that game, Ohio State loses. Michigan was the better team. I told you all throughout the year, and this is not me trashing Kyle McCord, but against Notre Dame, he got lucky. Should have thrown a pick with the game on the line. Notre Dame player dropped it. I was never impressed with him up against Penn State because Penn State, even though they have a great defense, their offense did nothing in that game. And I said it. It's why the biggest reason why I thought Michigan was going to beat Ohio State this year. McCarthy was going to be able to make the plays, even though he's not their bread and butter, and McCord wasn't. And McCarthy only had 4 incompletions. They only threw the ball 20 times in the game. Michigan didn't even play all that great, to be honest with you. And they were still better than Ohio State. And McCarthy made a great throw to Roman Wilson. A no controversial review. I thought once they called it a touchdown on the field, they weren't going to overturn it. And that all goes back to the ball breaking the plane and all that stuff, which I think it's stupid. Where if that happened at the 1-yard line, it wasn't the end zone, then it probably would have been a fumble. But with all that stuff being said, I look back at that Ohio State performance. This is on Kyle McCord, and it's also on Ryan Day. And Ryan Day today, and honestly the last few days, you got to feel as down as you could be. Because think about what was on the line. We now look at this. Ryan Day hasn't been able to beat Michigan the last 3 years. They lose 3 straight years. When Urban Meyer had his team, buzzing, they would just embarrass Michigan. Michigan would never win. And now they have allowed Michigan to not only get back in the rivalry, but take back the dominance of the rivalry of the last 3 years. But this one, Even 3 years ago, it was a blowout. Last year was a close game until the fourth quarter. Then Michigan blew them out in the fourth. This one was the most important because Ohio State, they win the game. Everyone afterwards is saying, oh, Michigan the last 2 years, it was sign stealing. Oh, Michigan was cheating. But you could throw all that stuff out the window. And I've been someone from the start that said Michigan deserves a punitive action, but I don't think you have to drop the hammer because I didn't think that this was this big of a deal. Did they obtain the signs legally? Absolutely. They broke the rules. They need to be punished. But I thought having a coach serve a 3-game suspension in season was an absolute farce, and I'm sure there'll be more that's going to happen with the two investigations now going over to the NCAA in the aftermath of that. But on the Ryan Day side, I told you all throughout the week, I don't care what his record is, only has 6 losses. Ohio State fans lose that game. Some will say, hey, we're going to really be able to do that much better. But then most are going to say, he's not the guy for the job. Because 3 years in a row, you lose to Michigan. You can't afford to lose to Michigan 3 years in a row. Now, I don't think he's leaving. I don't think they're going to fire him. I thought maybe he would consider A&M, but A&M had their own sloppy process where A&M fans, what a bunch of losers they are, by the way. That 12th man, how delusional are those jackasses? Seriously. You had a problem with Mark Stoops? Mark Stoops, who's won 2 10-win seasons at Kentucky. Mark Stoops is one of the more underrated coaches in the country. Mark Stoops, who forced John Calipari, this is how much power he had. He forced John Calipari at Kentucky, a basketball school, to apologize for calling it a basketball school. And A&M fans were up in arms about Mark Stoops. And I like Elko. I wanted Elko to coach Temple. I'm a big Elko fan. And Elko, all the luck in the world, but you're getting set up to fail. You really are at A&M. You are getting set up to fail because those fans are absolutely delusional. They may be the dumbest fans in college football. I understand you may not like a hire, but to be freaking out over Mark Stoops and then he doesn't get the job because the AD panicked, well, let me tell you about the AD. You listen to the fans, you'll become a fan soon. With 3 years or less, guarantee the AD will be out of a job. But getting back to the Ohio State part of this, Ryan Day. I don't think he's leaving. That seat, it's weird to say a coach that only has 6 losses or now 7. It is warm, though. Because if you lose next year and it's 4 in a row, I don't know where you're going to turn because Luke Fickell just took the Wisconsin job. Vrabel's not leaving the pros for college. And I'll just throw this out there. With Gene Smith retiring in July, new AD coming in, maybe, I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe they make some changes. Who knows? Would you call Urban Meyer? I'll just throw that out there. Would you at least dangle the carrot in front of Urban Meyer, who the last time we saw him as a coach on a football field, it was in the NFL and it was a disaster. Say what you want about Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer does a lot of wrong. But when Urban Meyer's on a college football field, he wins. And he has won everywhere he has been, including Ohio State. And we know what he did at Florida. We know what he did at Utah. But would you, maybe in a year or two from now, this continues with Ryan Day, where it continues to not be his day up against Michigan, do you try to lure back Urban Meyer and what that would do for this Michigan-Ohio State rivalry? If Harbaugh stays, that would be crazy if we could get back Harbaugh against Urban Meyer. I don't think it's likely, but you know Urban Meyer is addicted to coaching college football. Regardless of what he says, I know Ryan Day is his guy. But if Day isn't the guy, which it appears Ryan Day can only take Ohio State so far, maybe you try to bring back the guy that dominated this rivalry and brought a national championship to Ohio State. And even though there was a lot of things that were done wrong by Urban Meyer at the end with handling or the mishandling of Zach Smith, we all know what happens in sports. You win games, people forget about what happens, and you have 100,000 people in a stadium chanting your name. I'll just throw that out there. Is Ohio State considering at least making the phone call to Urban and saying, maybe you should return to the sidelines? Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. Coming back, we got a few questions. I got a few answers. We call this segment Onside, Offsides, and we do it every Monday and Friday right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Standing by first with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS
Sports Flash.
And it's sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. When you're 1 in 10, nobody is safe, even in your first year on the job. And Frank Reich is out already as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He's the first coach fired in back-to-back seasons since the merger. Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, takes over in the interim. This is the last week of football in November, with contenders establishing themselves this month. The final game of Week 12 features the Bears and Vikings in Minnesota, which lost their top receiver, Justin Jefferson, early in the season, and he won't play tonight. Then they also lost their quarterback, Kirk Cousins, but they can close the month at 7-5 with a win tonight and very much in on the playoff hunt, and hoping to do so as they have won the last 5 meetings against the Bears, who come in at 3-8. Another free agent pitcher is off the board. Sonny Gray reportedly coming to terms with the Cardinals in a 3-year, $75 million deal. Purdue, the new number 1 team in the nation, the AP Top 25. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Talking to the Pro Football Hall of Famer and Emmitt Smith.
You don't have a Mahomes in Dallas. You got a Dak Prescott that's efficient quarterback enough to throw the ball 35 times a game, maybe 40, maybe. You should have a running game that should balance that and create more opportunity for Gallups and everybody else to get down the field with play action if you run the ball effectively. If we believe in Tony Pollard that much to where we got rid of Zeke Elliott, well, damn it, use him.
Does it annoy you that Zeke's not playing for the Cowboys?
It does.
Why?
Why? Because I thought the 1-2 punch was awesome. And it does ignore me. It makes me hot that he's not a Dallas Cowboy.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Time to get to a little onside offside. Stuart Kovacs, hit it!
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
Alrighty, Samter, what do we got cooking up today?
Well, after starting the season 1-5, the Broncos have reeled off 5 straight wins, including big W's against powerhouses like the Chiefs, the Bills, and yesterday, the Browns. Now, after yesterday's game, Russell Wilson said he's not surprised by their success.
First of all, we're resilient. I think the best part about us is we've been resilient. It's about us being together. I've never doubted. I've never doubted in our football team and where we could go. I think the biggest thing is a relentless belief in each other and relentless belief in our coaches and who we are and what where we're going.
So, onside, offside, Denver will be a threat for a couple of years with Russ and Peyton at the helm.
I'm not ready to go there. A threat. Will they ever find a way to beat Kansas City in terms of in the division? I know they beat them in the regular season. I'm talking about winning an AFC West championship. Probably not. Can I see the two of them together winning a Super Bowl? I'm still not there. And don't get me wrong, Russ has been vastly improved from a year ago. Russell Wilson's playing some really good football now, but I don't know if Russ is going to be elite again. I don't know if this is going to continue. I think what has been showed here the last few weeks is Russ is deserving of being the guy next year. And then after next season, I'll be ready to say what the declarations will be on how far this group could take it. But right now, even though it's been remarkable that they're on this win streak, they won 5 in a row, they're 6-5, they have a chance to go make the playoffs. Well, let's just see what happens down the stretch first before people start saying, oh, this is going to be a great lethal duo together for many years. But their schedule is not tough down the stretch. Texans this week, good game between C.J. Stroud and the Broncos. You play the Chargers. The Chargers are right now. The Lions, good team. Patriots stink. The Chargers, again, they stink. The Raiders, they could play a half, but they're not going to play a full brand of 60-minute football. So they got a shot. They got a legitimate shot. And I guess I'm not going to say I'd be stunned that they make the playoffs, but them being a threat for a couple years, yeah, let's settle down a little bit. I'll go offside.
Offside.
Now, over in the NFC, the Packers have won 2 straight thanks to Thursday's shocking Thanksgiving win over the Lions.
Isn't that back-to-back games? I don't know, won 2 straight. That kind of makes it seem like you're saying it's a win streak. They won back-to-back games.
So, I mean, does 2 not count as a win streak? A short win streak, but it is a streak nonetheless.
I feel like 3 straight is a win streak.
Okay.
Winning back-to-back games.
So the Broncos win streak and the Packers 2-game
back-to-back effort.
There you go.
Back-to-back wins.
Now, Jordan Love has 5 TDs and no pick in those 2 games. Not a win streak, just those back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
As Green Bay moved just a game out of the final playoff spot at 5-6. Onside, offside, Love is proving he's the long-term answer at QB in Green Bay.
He's proving right now that he'll be the guy next year. He's proving he has the ability to be the guy. But I'm not ready to say that he's the long-term answer. Like, he could be, but you got to see more consistency. And you got to know at the end of the year, have there been enough tangible moments to say, alrighty, he could be the guy. I think you're going to want to see him again next year. I don't believe they're going to move off of him, which was a chance a few weeks ago, even when we had Kevin Harlan on. So it's like you go both ways on this, but when you say Love is proving he's the long-term answer at QB, I'm not ready to go there. He's proving he's going to be the guy for next year, and he'll be getting that opportunity once again. So I'll go offside.
Offside.
Now, during yesterday's loss in Philly, the Bills defenders were seen having a verbal altercation with an Eagles fan before Shaq Lawson appeared to shove the fan who was in the stands, right? It wasn't like the guy was on the field or anything.
Yeah.
This guy was in the stands. They walked over from the bench and started yelling at the guy. I'm sure he was
saying...
First row. Ridiculous things I'm sure he was saying.
Who knows? I don't know what was being said. We all assume that it's probably ridiculous to elicit that response.
Yep.
But in the motions of the game, I don't know what was said. Sometimes players, they lose their cool and do something stupid. Other times it's deserved, and maybe you should have punched the guy in the face.
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, they didn't go into the stands. They just kind of shoved the guy in the first row of the stands.
Some may say it was a brotidly shove. Back to the brotherly shove play.
Or maybe a tush push. So onside, offsides.
That just sounds a little bit wrong. I didn't see anyone slapping anyone on the ass. I just saw there was a little shove right in the chest area.
You were looking in the wrong places. Onside, offside. Lawson should be suspended multiple games if it is proven that what we did see is a shove.
You want to say 1 game, I'm okay with that. Multiple games, even though it's a bad viral video and it's not a good look, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Sometimes players just have to take it and you just have to move on, and you know you're never going to win when you're fighting with the fans. I'm going to go offside, though, when you say Lawson should be suspended multiple games. I'm not there on that one. 1 at most, depending this review.
Offsides.
Now, in their first game since firing OC Matt Canada, the Steelers' offense broke out for over 420 yards of total offense, dominating time of possessions with 37 minutes and doubling up the Bengals in first downs, 22-10. But they managed just 16 points.
Right.
Onside, offside. You still have very little faith in the Steelers' offense.
The Steelers have a phenomenal defense. The Steelers...
That doesn't answer the question. You have no faith in their offense. Well, they have a good defense.
Well, I'm making the point here. The Steelers and the Browns are the same team. Phenomenal defense, but the offense in the year of 2023 stinks. So they probably should make the playoffs. They're 7-4. I got to think they're going to find a way to win 3 more games to play the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Colts, the Bengals, and they wrap up the season with 2 tough games, the Seahawks and the Ravens. But I still have very little faith in the offense. I have more faith than I did with Matt Canada being there because that was just a lost cause. I have faith in their defense, though, to maybe get them to the playoffs and get 3 more wins. Or 4 more wins. I have no faith in this offense whatsoever. So, yeah, I still have very little faith in the Steelers offense. Onsides.
Now, we were talking about A&M before. Reports initially said that A&M was hiring Mark Stoops away from Kentucky. He declared that he was staying after fans revolted. And the Aggies had to go to Plan B and hire Mike Elko away from Duke. Now, Elko did take over a 3-win Duke team, and in just 2 years, won 16 games, went from 3 wins to 9 wins in 2 bowl games in just 2 seasons in Durham. So, onside, offside, Mike Elko will be able to turn A&M into perennial SEC contender with the amount of money that program has behind them.
Offside, because nothing will ever be good enough for these dopey A&M fans that I understand why you maybe want Mike Elko. I'm a Mike Elko fan, as I said earlier. But the idea that Mark Stoops would have been this egregious hire, a guy that's had 2 10-win seasons at Kentucky, shows you how dumb and delusional you A&M fans are. So nothing will ever be good enough. Elko will be fine, but he'll never win enough games for those A&M fans. So a perennial SEC contender, yeah, that's a no for me, dog. Offside.
Offside.
Indiana fired its coach Tom Allen after 7 seasons, and after the move, the Athletics' Bruce Feldman reported that John Gruden could be a surprise candidate for the job, though that report has been challenged by many. Onside, offside, Gruden should coach college before trying a return to the NFL.
Absolutely onside. He will never be an NFL head coach again, and his brother Jay said that when he was on with us a few weeks ago, you never could expect him to be an offensive coordinator again in the NFL. You have a lawsuit going on, a litigious situation with the NFL. I don't think he's making a return to the National Football League. If he wants to be a head coach again, it would be in college, and that hire would have some juice. I'm okay with that. I would say onside, John Gruden going to college.
All right, and the last one, Draymond Green spoke to the media for the first time since being suspended for choking Rudy Gobert, but he also went on to play the victim and call out the NBA for unfair treatment.
To continue mentioning like, oh, well, what he did in the past, I've paid for those. You know, like I got suspended in Game 5 of the finals. So you can't keep suspending me for those actions. They made it clear that they're going to hold everything against me that I've done before.
So onside, offside, it is fair for the NBA to consider past behavior when deciding on punishments.
Yeah, because you have a track record. You have a reputation. So there's a heightened awareness to what you do. And you playing the victim card is laughable because you made a situation escalate to a point that it didn't need to. And the Warriors continue to be very much afraid of Draymond and don't hold him accountable. And they enabled his behavior. And I hope it catches up to them. And I hope they don't win again. I used to love the Warriors, but Draymond's become so insufferable, and he always plays the victim card. So, yeah, it is fair for the NBA to consider his past behavior because he needs to change and needs to stop doing what he's currently doing. Greg McElroy next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, away we go. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. You can listen to this man each and every morning on Jocks FM. Also, you can catch him on ESPN. He'll be on the call this weekend for the Big 12 championship game. That is the former Alabama quarterback, and Greg McElroy, kind enough to join us once again right here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Greg, what a weekend of football. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, you got it, man. Happy to do it. It's a busy week, but we are chugging right along with fewer games, but more storylines than we usually have this time of year.
I got to start you off with your alma mater. 4th and goal at the 31. We know McElroy finds Bond for the touchdown. How did you process that one? Because I still can't believe it.
I'm not sure I've processed it yet, to be honest with you. Removing the analyst side, just as like a fan, like in the moment, right? It just didn't feel at any point like we were going to win the game. I was losing my mind. I had my headset on. We're getting ready to go live. We called Georgia Tech probably about a half hour after the game went final. And so we're getting ready to rehearse, and I'm like, push rehearsal. Give me 5 minutes. I'm going to need to rehearse. I don't need to be rehearsing with stuff going on in the eye where people could see it and I'm dropping F-bombs, right? Like I didn't want to be doing that. I was not in a happy place. I was not happy at all. Especially just how bad it was, I mean, it was the 3rd and 20 before that. They could convert, and then they had the errant snap. And then they have the throw where McElroy crosses the line of scrimmage. It was about as bad as it gets. I mean, the poise could not have been lower. And then in the unlikeliest scenario possible to see him connect on, I think, what was a really accurate throw and a nice play by Bond. It was awesome. I mean, as a fan, it was awesome. From an analyst side, it was less than stellar execution. And if it's not what you want to rely on, and sometimes you just got to make a play, though, and they did. And in a weekend with some pretty chaotic finishes and some pretty wild outcomes, survive in advance is the key. And they did just that.
It's amazing because when Bama lost back in week 2, and we all knew going into this year, right? Everyone said this is not as strong of an Alabama team as in previous years. I thought to myself, yeah, they'll suffer another loss along the way. And we've never seen a 2-loss team get into the college football playoff. With how quickly they changed things against Tennessee from halftime and they pull it out in the, with the great third quarter, I started to believe in them a little bit more. And then I thought for sure they were cooked up against Auburn with the way that game was playing on out. So watching this team throughout the year, seeing the improvement from McElroy, just what jumps out to you with this Alabama team as they're about to play for an SEC championship up against Georgia this weekend?
Well, I think they're really resilient, which is one thing that is really, and if you look kind of just across the college football world, and all the teams that are vying for the championship at the moment have all showcased an ability to just battle, whether it's Georgia, who I think has been really resilient, had bad starts against South Carolina and Auburn, and
Bowers injury too.
Yeah, Bowers has gotten hurt. Ladd McConkey's gotten hurt. They've been without Ra Thomas, who has a foot sprain. Their right tackle's been out. Their right guard's been out. I mean, they've had to deal with a lot of adversity, which is not something that Georgia has really been accustomed to the last couple of years. But here they are sitting at 12-0. Washington has found a million different ways to win, whether it be the defensive performance against Arizona State or going forward on 4th and 1 at their own 29 with 1 minute and 15 seconds left this past weekend to give themselves a chance to kick the game-winning field goal. I think Florida State has lost their quarterback. And has had some bad performances. The Clemson game probably at the top of the list, didn't play well at all, went into a hostile environment, got a sack fumble, turned it to the house, and that was basically what won the game. I mean, Oregon has been the team that probably hasn't experienced as much adversity, but they lost because they went 0 for 3 on 4th down against Washington, who survived in that one. So I think every team's been really resilient, and I think Bama would fall suit in that as well. Things could have gone real sideways after the 3rd game of the year against USF, but They kind of came back and they rallied around Jalen McElroy, who's gotten a lot more confident. And it's pretty obvious with how he's played. He's just gotten more confident. But their hands full this weekend. But I think they actually match up pretty well against Georgia. Georgia's got some issues with their edges on defense against the run. And Georgia Tech ran for almost 200. Auburn went for 200 and plus against them. Alabama has a more dynamic quarterback than either of the aforementioned teams. Peyton Thorne at Auburn and Haynes King at Georgia Tech. So if they want to utilize quarterback run and really hit the edges, I mean, Missouri ran it on them too. I mean, there was a bunch of teams that have been able to run it on Georgia this year, which is not something we're used to. So I think Bama actually matches up pretty well. Probably even better than they would have even the last 2 years.
Wow. Now, with that being said, Greg McElroy, out of 100%, how likely do you think it is that they hand Georgia their first loss of the season on Saturday?
I'd say it's 50-50.
Wow.
I'd say it's 50. I think a lot of it depends on Georgia's health. I mean, without Brock Bowers, I mean, they become a lot more human. And while last week they were able to rely heavily on the run game, they ran the ball really well with Kendall Milton. They ran the ball really well with Dejon Edwards. And those guys have been better since the offensive line's gotten healthier. But they're not going to be able to do that against Alabama. Alabama, that was about as bad as I've seen Bama look defensively against the run, especially in the first half against Auburn. So something tells me that they're going to get an earful this upcoming week about stopping the run, and their strength has been in their secondary. I mean, Kool-Aid McKinstry's been up and down, but the other three guys in their secondary with Caleb Downs, the freshman, Terrion Arnold, the other corner, that's been really the strength of the team. And they've been probably the most consistent group since the Texas game. So I think Georgia has become a pass-happy offense. And I think Brock Bowers makes them very different in the event in which he can't go, or is it less than 100%? Ladd McConkey the same. Then there are some question marks about how effective Georgia will be, I think. But Georgia's elite. They're super elite. So Bama's going to have to play really well. But Bama's elite too. So if Georgia doesn't play well, they could easily lose the game. And Bama could as well if they don't play their A game as well.
When we get to the Big 12 championship game, you're going to be on the call for Oklahoma State going up against Texas. The Texas fan, they feel even if they win, they may not get in. I think the SEC champion will get in. Whoever the Big 10 champion is, it's going to be Michigan, will get in, and the Pac-12 champion will get in. Florida State, let's just say they win this weekend. Does that mean Texas is going to be squeezed out, even though there's a scenario where maybe Alabama beats Georgia, and we knew that Alabama lost to Texas earlier this year?
I think for Texas to get in, they need one upset. That one upset would be Bama over Georgia. That other upset could be Louisville over Florida State. And of course, in a more crazy scenario, they need a big upset between the Iowa over Michigan. But let's be real. I don't think any of us envision that as a realistic possibility. So I think they need one upset to be in.
But let me ask you this. Do you think the committee, if it came down to Alabama and Texas, let's just say, you think the committee would put Texas in over Alabama? Because I don't think they would.
I think they will. Yeah. And it's because the committee is going to take, and they've proven this time and time again, the committee is going to take the path of least resistance. I cannot remember a single time in which the committee made a controversial decision. And people are going to say, wait, hang on a second. What about in 2017 when 11-1 Alabama got in over 11-2 Ohio State? Well, is that controversial? Ohio State lost to Purdue, and I believe they lost to Oklahoma that year as well. Yeah, it was Oklahoma that year. They had 2 losses against Alabama's 1. Alabama has 1. Ohio State has 2. They're out. I can't believe they put Ohio State in over Penn State in 2016. It was pretty simple. It was cut and dry. One team had 1 loss. The other team had 2. Yeah, the other team beat the team head to head, but we had 2 losses. Ohio State had 1, put the team in with 1 loss. I guess the most controversial year would have been in 2014 when Ohio State was put in with 1 loss when measured against TCU and Baylor, but that wasn't even really that controversial. I mean, Ohio State, they didn't play either of the 2. So they had a better resume, coming from a better conference, had a conference championship game that they won 59-0, and they got in. I mean, they have never done a controversial thing. What a controversial move would have been was in 2015 when Ohio State lost to Michigan State, and Michigan State was about as flawed as the day is long. They were not good. Anyone that with their own eyes could have looked at Michigan State in 2015, led by Connor Cook, and said that team is flawed and they have no business even being near the top 4. But Ohio State blew it in that game to Michigan State. Michigan State won the Big Ten. Ohio State sitting there at 11-1. Everybody and their brother knew Ohio State was better than Michigan State. But guess what? Michigan State got in, and Ohio State was not even sent to the Rose Bowl. Iowa went to the Rose Bowl that year. They went to play in the Fiesta Bowl, where I believe they beat Notre Dame. So the committee's never done anything controversial at all. And they're not going to in this case either. They're going to take the path of least resistance, the path that's the most easy to justify, because they don't want to ruffle the feathers. And to be honest with you, it's never been the 4 best teams. I wish they would just come out and just tell us, hey, yeah, you know what? It's not the 4 best teams. It's the 4 most deserving teams.
Yeah.
It'd be more honest, which I think we can all live with at this point. Just be honest and tell us it's the 4 most deserving teams. And if that's the case, by all means, Alabama should be behind Texas if that's the way you want to go about it.
When this wraps up on Saturday and we wait to get the word on Sunday, what do you think the 4 most deserving teams are going to be with how everything plays out this weekend?
Well, I mean, if chalk flies, that means Georgia's in for sure. Michigan's in for sure. Florida State, in a favorite role, is in for sure. They're undefeated. The winner of the Pac-12 is also in. So whoever ends up winning that, whether it's Oregon or Washington, it doesn't really matter.
Who do you think wins the Pac-12, by the way?
I lean Oregon. They're playing a little better right now. I think they're a little more balanced. It's hard to pick against Kalen DeBoer in a big game, though. I mean, he's the real deal. But I lean Oregon. Neutral site. It was close last time, but it was a kind of a strange game last time. I mean, a couple big plays. I think Oregon's playing a little better on the defensive side, even though I do think Washington's progressed on that side. So I think Oregon wins, but I think it'll be close for sure. It'll be a game that's coming down to the wire. So if chalk flies, you have Pac-12 champ, SEC champ, meaning Georgia, Michigan, and Florida State. If Florida State loses, which is the most likely, I think, of all the teams in the championship game scenarios to lose, then that slides Texas up. If Bama beats Georgia, then Bama would be in as well. So, but you need a little chaos. Bama needs 2 upsets, one in which they actually control. The other, they need Florida State to lose, or they could have Texas lose to Oklahoma State as well, and they could find their way in as well. So Bama needs 2 upsets, Texas needs 1, and it should sort itself out rather easily.
What have your thoughts been on the aftermath from the game between Michigan and Ohio State, Greg McElroy, where Ohio State fans have turned, some of them at least, on Ryan Day, who only has 7 losses, but 3 of those losses have been to Michigan.
3 to Michigan and 3 in the playoff. The other was against Oregon in the regular season a couple years back.
Yeah,
so
they got blown out, yeah.
When you can name the losses off the top of your head, you're doing pretty good as a head coach, I would think. One of those losses was in a national championship game, I might add. The other was to an eventual national champion in Georgia. It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that you need to beat your rival. I get that. But I mean, this whole, he's the next John Cooper. He's 1-3. John Cooper was 2-10-1 against Michigan. I mean, it's not, he's got to lose a whole heck of a lot more games to become the next John Cooper in my eyes. I think Ryan Day's amazing. Right now, Ohio State, and here's what frustrates me about it, Zach, is that he's taken a lot of heat, and I get that. And I think that there were 2 mistakes that he made in the game. Both were on 4th downs where I thought maybe he could have been a little more aggressive. One was at the end of the half where he decided to kick a field goal that was missed. The other was on a 4th and 1 near midfield that he decided to punt.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the 2. If we're going to nitpick and say, Ryan Day cost him maybe 6 to 10 points in the game by doing those 2 things. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but those are 2 things that I'd push back on. But what I would say is if they would have lost the same way they lost the last 2 years, I'd be a lot more frustrated if I were an Ohio State fan. But Ryan Day has made the necessary adjustments within his program to get them closer. Because if you look at how things went in 21 and 22, Michigan gashed them on the ground. They killed them by running the football. They killed them with big plays. There weren't a whole lot of big plays in this game. There were a handful, but there weren't many. And Ryan Day, I think this year, their team, especially on offense, is the least talented he's had. Well, they have a few good players for sure. They don't have a guaranteed first-round pick at quarterback. They do at wide receiver with Marvin Harrison. I think the tight end Stover's excellent. Egbuka's excellent. Travion Henderson's excellent. The offensive line's shaky and the quarterback's shaky. I mean, those are 2 areas where you don't want to be shaky. They tried to go to the portal. They missed. They ended up settling with a transfer, and they had to plug and play another guy. Like they tried, they just missed a couple guys, but he has improved the defense greatly. They've become a little bit more balanced offensively. I mean, all the areas where they've struggled, they've improved in. They're just not yet caught up to Michigan. But Michigan's a cut above right now. And let's reassess next year too, when Michigan has a ton of turnover potentially, and there's buzz that Harbaugh's going to the NFL. So I think it's way too early to jump off the Ryan Day bandwagon. He's a heck of a coach. His program just a little behind the team up north right now, and I can understand Ohio State's frustration with that.
Just play along here, though, in this hypothetical game, Greg McElroy. Let's just say Day loses again next year to Michigan. That'd be 4 straight years. You know what the noise is now. It would only get louder. Gene Smith on his way out into retirement. You think there's any chance a year from now they lose again that they call Urban Meyer and say, maybe you want to try coaching again back at Ohio State?
I mean, I think that they would welcome Urban Meyer back probably. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to address the hypothetical. I have too much respect for Ryan Day to really even entertain it. I think he's a really good coach. And if for whatever reason he doesn't feel appreciated at Ohio State, I can think of about 100 other programs that would gladly take it. So I know it's easy to be prisoner of the moment. It's easy to fall victim to the low-hanging fruit. All of it's fair. I'm not asking people to settle. I'm not asking people to be rational. I'm not. I don't expect you to be. You're a fan. You expect the best. I'm never gonna push back on that. But at the same time, I mean, let's keep some perspective. I mean, this guy's won 90% of his games or thereabouts. it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Let's see what happens in the next month and a half and reassess, because once we get past the hurt, that's probably going to take 72 hours. Maybe it might take a week. Maybe it's going to take 2 weeks. Maybe Michigan wins the national championship and it really hurts for the next 6 to 10. I don't know. All I know is that Ryan Day was a field goal away from winning the national championship last year. And if you want to send him packing, by all means, but who are you going to get that's better?
Last thing I'll ask you before we let you run. You have the number 1 overall pick in the draft. You need a quarterback. Are you still Caleb Williams over Drake May? Were you never that way, or do you go with somebody else? Who do you think is the best quarterback that is going to be in play here for the draft?
I go Drake May. I need to watch the tape from this past weekend. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I will get to it. But I've watched probably almost every throw he's made this year. I think the processing has sped up. Caleb Williams this year relied too much on improvisation. I think you have to live within the structure of the offense to an extent at the next level. Plus, I do think there are certain personality traits that I want in a quarterback, and a quarterback that is given off the impression, that he has some entitlement, or or his camp is saying that he's demanding a share of ownership and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, all I know is I can just read what people have said, and that's a little bit of a turnoff to me. So I think Caleb's an elite player and an elite improviser, but I think living within the structure of the offense is something that I would have liked to have seen a little more of, knowing that he's going to transition to the next level. I think it's hard to coach when you don't know what he's going to do, and so much of it is kind of done on the fly. So I'd lean Drake May a little bit. The other guy that I've really grown to love, and I think he's got a chance to be a really good pro, is Michael Penix at Washington. I think he's got a chance to be really good. Now, he's not going to be the measurables. He's not going to have the height of what May has, or even to a lesser extent Williams. I think they're comparable in height, but Williams is just bigger, at least feels bigger. When you look at him, I haven't seen Penix in person, but I think he throws it to spots and anticipates throws better than any of the aforementioned two. I think he is on another level as far as executing the throws and doing it consistently. Now, he has a really good receiving core, but if you look at the tight windows he's fitting it into, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And then I'll tell you another guy too. Don't sleep on Carson Beck at Georgia, man. Like, this guy's going to go flying up the draft boards here, and nobody's going to think about it. Nobody's going to say he's a product of a system, all sorts of stuff. Just go look at the throws. Go watch the Tennessee game. Go look at the windows he's squeezing it into. I mean, he's got a chance to be a dude.
What about Daniels at LSU, by the way, as a pro?
I like Daniels a little bit too much like Caleb in the sense that he kind of scrambles a little bit early. I don't think he's as twitchy as Lamar Jackson. Lamar had some of those qualities, and you could see with Lamar, like, he had a certain level of twitch and suddenness. Daniels has like RG3 straight line speed. You know what I mean? Like, I need a guy that can have a little bit more wiggle, and that's what Lamar had. And there will be he's got a really accurate throwing arm too. Down the field, really good. I think he's made himself a lot of money this year. I just don't know if I would put him into the category alongside, May and Williams, who would be 1-2. Penix to me and Carson Beck would be 3-4 in whatever. I think Beck's going to skyrocket here very soon. And then 5 would probably be Daniels, but I could see all 5 coming off the board in the first round.
Greg McElroy, have a great call this weekend. Always appreciate chopping it up with you in the college football world. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks again.
There you go. Greg McElroy joining us on the Zach Gelb Show. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All right, you can stream the NFL on What's the One for free. Sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every What's the One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open What's the One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Let's start things off with Bill Belichick. So the Patriots lose once again. Good job, Chad Ryland. Thank you very much. Was very happy with that missed field goal. Tank. And now I continue to be the biggest Chicago Bears fan on the planet. Actually, Carolina Panthers fan on the planet. Even though I can't stand their owner because I want the Panthers to win because their pick goes to the Chicago Bears. I would like for the Pats to make the decision on who the best quarterback is on the draft. But if Greg McElroy is right, who just joined us, that he likes May over Williams, let the Bears draft Caleb Williams. Patriots get the second overall pick, and they go select Drake May. I just want whoever is the best quarterback in this draft. But anyway, Bill Belichick was asked if he still enjoys coaching the Pats. Let me predict how Bill's going to answer that. Probably didn't give a response for about 3-4 seconds and then goes, I love coaching the players. I love coaching this team. And been doing it for a long time. And each and every year, love it more. Let's listen up to the hoodie.
Given how the season has gone this year, do you still enjoy the process of coaching this team to the same level as, say, previous years?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every week's a challenge, and I'm excited about the challenge, the opportunity, and what we have to do to win each week.
That doesn't sound all that convincing. Now, I know Bill Belichick isn't the most exuberant human being on the planet, but it almost sounds as if he was being held hostage there. Here is Rob Gronkowski. You need some animation? Well, here we go. This is the Gronk on ESPN, and he goes off on the Pats offense.
It's very frustrating, and it's very frustrating as an ex-Patriots to watch the game. It's actually one of the first times this year I've watched a complete half of a Patriots game, and let me tell you, it's as bad as what the fans have been saying. Mac Jones should have thrown about 4 picks already.
He's not wrong. It is bad. It's horrible. It's brutal. This team sucks. And that's why at the end of the season, you need to clean house, make full changes. Bill, we love you. Bill, 6-time Super Bowl champion, winning head coach, one of the greatest coaches of all time. You should want to leave. You should want to go coach a team that actually has talent because the Patriots have to build this thing from the ground up. Let's go to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network when he gave some details on the timetable for a potential Aaron Rodgers return.
There's a chance that he practices this week. That has been his hope. Jets coaches were unclear if it's actually going to happen. I would say more likely the next week, but his return to practice at least is coming. As one source said, he just needs to bring us the doctor's note, and if he can protect himself, then he will practice and potentially will play. My understanding, Rich, is that he is targeting the December 24th game against Washington Commanders.
All righty. As much as I think this is ridiculous, like the fact that Rodgers is even in a position where all he needs is that doctor note, the clearance that he can get back on the practice field, it's kind of crazy because he suffered that Achilles injury back on September 11th. But if he's saying that he's targeting the last 3 weeks of the season, so the Commanders game, this team is 4-7 right now. They play Atlanta this weekend, then the Texans, and then the Dolphins. I'll go on a limb here. They're already done at 4-7, but you lose another game, you're really done. And you'll probably lose at least 2 out of 3. So you're going to return to do what? Your team's not going to be in contention. We all know you're going to be the guy next year. This offensive line is absolutely horrible. So why are you returning? Why are you playing? What is there to gain? The answer? Nothing. A big fat zero. It would be maybe the dumbest thing, even though it'd be one of the more impressive things I've ever seen, if Aaron Rodgers comes back this year. It'd be impressive, but there's literally no point to it. Here is Brandon Staley, angry after another bad loss.
I'm not here to talk to the fan base. I'm here to talk to my players, the locker room. I know that we give ourselves a chance to win every single week with the game plans that we have, okay? And we have done it here. You guys act like we've never played good defense. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. You act like we haven't made any improvements. There were a lot of other things that caused us to lose today. It certainly wasn't our defense. Our team lost, and I am fully responsible for it, and I take full responsibility. But we lost as a team today.
Isn't this the same thing from last week? Seriously. That was from yesterday's press conference? Yeah, I guess he doesn't make any changes. Well, wasn't that spot on, Stu, from last week? It maybe sound a little bit different. Did we just play the same clip as last week? Did someone get duped? That's the same damn thing from last week, Coach. It's the same damn script each and every week. He's just not cut out. he's not an NFL head coach. So you made the playoffs, and then you choked away a game last year that you should have been in the second round. Your team's 4-7 with all this talent. You're cooked, you're done, you're finished. And the Raiders got rid of Josh McDaniels. The Panthers got rid of David Tepper. Got rid of Frank Reich. A lot of Panthers fans wish they got rid of David Tepper. So you just got 2 coaches fired in season. Why is Staley still there? What is the benefit to having Brandon Staley there? Nothing. This guy's so lost. Here is Trevor Lawrence. Jaguars find a way to just survive against the Texans. But Trevor Lawrence was asked if he's excited for the rivalry with C.J. Stroud for years and years to come.
I want the teams in our division to be as bad as possible. So, no, I'm not. That's how I see it. And the way they're playing, it's exciting. Yes, there's going to be I'm sure some great matchups down the road. And CJ's he's playing lights out. It's going to be fun for years to come, hopefully. So, but no, I wouldn't prefer that. I'd prefer if, the guys in our division didn't have good quarterbacks. It'd be better for us.
We all thought that division was going to be absolutely brutal this year because it was going to be the Jaguars and everybody else. The Texans are showing you that they're more than just moving in the right direction. The Colts have the same record as the Texans, and no one's talking about Indianapolis. And remember, they lost their quarterback, Anthony Richardson, for the season. And Tennessee's not a good team. They're a bad team. But of all the bad teams, they're a 4-7 bad team, but they could be solid here and there. Will Levis, there's this excitement to watch him play. Still got Derrick Henry, who got in the end zone twice. And you got DeAndre Hopkins. That division we thought was going to be just unwatchable. It's been the farthest thing from that this year. All righty, let's go down to the Big House Field with me running around after the game and all the mayhem. You had Jason Avant, who's going to join us coming up in about 50 minutes from now. Sideline reporter from Michigan, former Wolverine wide receiver, former receiver in the NFL, the Eagles and the Chiefs. He interviewed Chris Jenkins after the game, and this is what Chris Jenkins had to say about being in Ohio State.
Chris Jenkins, senior, how does it feel to beat Ohio State?
It feels amazing. With the brothers, we got all the work we put in. It feels amazing. And there ain't no more excuses, and can't nobody say otherwise, because we did that.
That's awesome. And all throughout the last few weeks, you're cheaters, you're going to get exposed, and Sharon Moore, 3-0. What the signs point to on that one, Penn State and Ohio State, with all you whiny fans. Oh, the signs, oh, the stealing, oh, the cheating. Everyone was watching, and you guys still weren't good enough. Good emotion there from Chris Jenkins. We go from a winner to a man that's on the losing side of the game, Ryan Day. Crying Ryan Day. Crying Day. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. You lost for your 3rd straight year up against Michigan. Let's hear from the baby petulant head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes.
What we talk about in the locker room to ourselves, but we're all disappointed. We know that what this game means to so many people, and so to come up short is certainly crushing. Not only just because you invest your whole year in it, we know at Ohio State what this game means, and so there's a locker room in there that's devastated.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you do feel for the kids. There's no doubt about it. But we knew what the biggest flaw was for Ohio State going into the season. The quarterback's just not good enough. And Notre Dame drops what would have been an interception. Michigan doesn't drop that. Michigan's an experienced team. Michigan's been knocking on the door the last years. They beat you twice, and they've been in the college football playoff. So I look at this Ohio State team, even though they were in the playoff last year, they backed their way in. Now you don't have C.J. Stroud, and you have a lesser quarterback. Marvin Harrison Jr. was the only reason they were in the game. And quite frankly, when I was watching that from the stands in section 13, row 13, and Ann Arbor, I never thought until that last drive that Ohio State was going to win the game. And once they completed a pass, it was fumbled, they picked it up inside the 40, I said, okay, here you go. They got a chance to go win the game where they haven't led for a second. And then right after that, McCord throws the second interception. Let's listen up to the coach of Auburn, Hugh Freeze, in the Iron Bowl. Looked like he was going to have a big victory, get his 7th win of the season, and then something I've never seen before. 4th and goal at the 31-yard line. McElroy finds Bond for the game winner. Here is Hugh Freeze on the devastating loss.
Man, it's a lot of hurt in that locker room, and it stinks. Our kids gave themselves a chance to win the Iron Bowl tonight, and that's going to stick with us for a while.
Yeah, I don't even know what you say after that one. First off, I don't know what's crazier. The fact that McElroy completed the pass or the fact that we were in a 4th and goal scenario from the 31, where the play before that, he threw an illegal forward pass because he was in front of the line of scrimmage. I'm still mystified that we were even in that scenario, and then the play that happened did transpire and play on out right in front of all of us. What a wild, wild Iron Bowl. All righty, that's a news brief. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. When we come on back, we will discuss the man that is the biggest joke right now in the NFL, and he's moving and grooving and making another move, and he continues to be a disaster. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Update time first. Here it is, the Ack Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Oh, Frank Reich didn't make it to Christmas. His tenure as Carolina Panthers head coach lasted just 11 games, in which he won only one of them. He was fired today by owner David Tepper, who's now on to his 5th head coach in his brief tenure as owner of the team. Special teams coach Chris Tabor takes over in the interim. The Vikings and Bears close out Week 12. Minnesota is one of a handful of teams that has lost its starting quarterback, but at 6-5, still in playoff contention. Josh Dobbs has stepped in since being acquired and has kept the Viking ship afloat, though they're coming off a 1-point loss a week ago. Dobbs said nobody is hanging their heads.
Excited about another opportunity as we clean up some of the things from the Denver game. We're going back and watching the film. Any day we take care of the football, we feel like it's a different outcome, and so that's on us, which obviously at this point stinks to look back on it, but is exciting knowing that at the end of the day, we go out, we take care of business, we can play really good football, and we're hard to stop.
The Bears are also coming off a loss, blowing a 12-point lead to the Lions to fall to 3-8. The Jaguars have placed left tackle Cam Robinson on injured reserve, and free agent Sonny Gray reportedly heading to St. Louis for a 3-year, $75 million deal. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
There's morons and then there's Josh McDaniels as a head coach. And this jackass goes, oh, don't you talk about the Patriots that way. It is one of the more inconceivable things and laughable things that I've ever heard. The great Larry David couldn't even write that script of comedy. McDaniels must have known he was getting fired, and he was auditioning for Saturday Night Live. Because when I heard that over the weekend, my chest was hurting because I was laughing. I fell down. I hit the floor because Antonio Pierce came and saved your ass. And you go, nope. I'm going to throw more gasoline on the fire. How dare you, Antonio Pierce, talk badly about Bill Belichick.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We have now seen our third coach, or second coach, get fired this season. Josh McDaniels, Dunzo, Frank Reich, now Dunzo. It was funny. I already assumed that Ron Rivera was fired for a second, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, we just know that's going to happen at the end of the season, but it hasn't happened yet. Now, let's look back at the Panthers hiring Frank Reich. I said this from the start. It was an hire. It was an underwhelming hire. It was a hire that you could say it made sense because he's an offensive-minded head coach. He is well-respected in the NFL. But just because someone thought something was a safe hire doesn't mean it was a good hire. And it blows up right in their face. With all that being said, though, it doesn't matter if Frank Reich is coaching this team or not. Doesn't. Panthers stink. The roster is just absolutely feeble. And they're going to ruin Bryce Young. Now, 6 weeks ago, if you said to me, Zach, do you think Frank Reich is back next year? I would have said yes, but that would be his final season with the Carolina Panthers. Now he's gone. Back-to-back seasons that David Tepper has fired a coach in season. The three head coaches on his watch have all been fired in season. Ron Rivera fired in season. Matt Rule fired in season. And then also Frank Reich fired in season. Where David Tepper messed up is there were only two coaches that should have been considered last year in terms of not bringing back Steve Wilks. You could have got Jim Harbaugh last year. Understand not bringing back Steve Wilks. You could have got Sean Payton. Understand not bringing back Steve Wilks. But once you couldn't get either of those two, or once neither of those two coaches wanted to go to you, whatever it was, hiring Frank Reich was a very vanilla and blah hire. Because Frank Reich, his last 2 years as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, displayed why he should not have been a head coach again in the NFL. Like, he was solid with the Colts, got dealt a bad hand with the Andrew Luck stuff, unfortunate situation. But when you habitually lose to Jacksonville, in Jacksonville, when you can't beat Tennessee in a big game, what's the benefit of making sure that we need to see Frank Reich again as a head coach? What is the upside? And also, he thought Carson Wentz was going to be a savior in Indianapolis. So you bring him into Carolina. And here's the greatest irony of it all. Even though I wasn't a fan of the hire, we all know. And if David Tepper wants to refute this, go take a lie detector test. Because you will not be able to refute with a lie detector test what I'm about to say. It's the worst kept secret in football. Everybody knew it. And I don't care if you preferred Young over Stroud, Stroud over Young. It doesn't matter what I thought. Doesn't matter what you, the listener, thought. Doesn't matter what the other teams thought. Doesn't matter what the pre-draft evaluation and what we all said during the college football season, which a lot of us thought Young was better than Stroud. But in Frank Reich's process, and also McCown, who got fired today, along with Deuce Staley, Frank Reich and McCown, they preferred C.J. Stroud. They did. And David Tepper, because he's a meddling owner, he found a way to convince them and demand, and that's what could happen when you own the team, to go draft Bryce Young. Now, I think Bryce Young, through his first season, has been treated unfairly. The offensive line in Carolina has been a joke. Miles Sanders should have never got a long-term deal in Carolina. And in the year of 2023, when Adam Thielen is your number one wide receiver, guess what? You're not going to be put in a position to succeed. But that problem, and it's been something that's been brewing for years with David Tepper, is he doesn't know how to allow his football people to make the football decisions. And I've used this comparison before, and I used this analogy before, and I'll say it again. Let's say I own a restaurant. Let's say I've never cooked a meal in my life, and then I go into the kitchen and tell the chef who I hired to cook the meal how to cook the meal and how to make the perfect chicken parm. And even though the chef says, nah, I wouldn't do it this way, and I go, nope, I pay you, you do what I say. That's what David Tepper does over and over and over again. And we could all go through this search. We could all talk about how the Panthers aren't a desirable job. He could probably go float a big, fat, lucrative paycheck to someone. It doesn't matter. Because eventually, David Tepper's going to be traveling down one way of the street. The coach is going to be coming the other way. And boom, they're going to collide and they're going to clash. And they're going to hit heads. Because David Tepper thinks he's a football guy. David Tepper, you own a football team. You're not a football guy. You should pay the people. I'm not saying you shouldn't be involved, but you have no patience and you constantly overtake the decision-making process. So what's the point of dishing out these big checks to people that have been in football for a long time and you don't let them actually do their job? Now, I do believe that Frank Reich in Carolina was fractured beyond repair, because when the coach wants a certain quarterback, even if he likes Bryce Young, and now you see in year one Bryce Young not perform well because he's in a crappy situation and C.J. Stroud thrive, and on paper, it's not like the Texans are loaded with talent, but Nick Caserio has done a good job in the draft. DeMeco Ryans has been a rock star first part of his career as a head coach. Yeah, C.J. Stroud right now looks like the better player. I fear that the Carolina Panthers, they already messed up Bryce Young. I fear that's going to continue. So you need to bring somebody else in. And I'm not going to sit here and say no one's going to want that job. But if you are a top candidate, like if you're Johnson with the Lions, if Anarumo is a top candidate, defensive-minded coach with the Cincinnati Bengals, you're Jim Harbaugh, why would you want to go to Carolina? Yeah, the owner will pay you a lot of money. Yeah, it's an opportunity. But he's not going to allow you to work your magic and do what you want to do, because this guy is addicted to being in control, being in power, and making the decisions. And what he tells you when he interviews you is the opposite of how it plays out. He gets you to sign that contract, and it's his team, and he doesn't let you do what you signed up for. So for Frank Reich, in a crazy world, because no one likes to get fired, I bet you he's relieved today. I bet you he's saying, finally, this suffering is over. Because even though he's going to get paid a king's ransom and no one's going to be crying for Frank Reich, I said this 3-4 weeks ago. At one of these press conferences, when they asked him, how do you like working with David Tepper? It looked like he was being held hostage. He sounded like a robot at the podium. No one believed the crap that he was trying to sell. So now it's up for the Panthers to get it right. But even if they make a good hire, will David Tepper look himself in the mirror and will David Tepper say, I got to take a back seat? And I don't think the answer to that question is yes. And it's just a ticking clock of eventually David Tepper is going to be a ticking time bomb and he'll explode. And he is the worst owner in the NFL. Now, it used to be Daniel Snyder. Now he's out. There's no doubt about it. David Tepper is the worst owner in the NFL. I also saw Adam Schefter said on Pat McAfee that he believes 7 to 10 NFL head coaches could be fired this year. So 2 are already gone, McDaniels, and then also Frank Reich today. I think Bill Belichick, I don't know if he's going to get fired, but I do not think he'll be back. Sean McDermott shouldn't be back next year. So that's already 4. Brandon Staley's definitely donezo. So that would be 5. Everyone in the AFC North is safe. Everyone in the AFC South is safe. NFC East, Rivera will be gone. I think Dable will be back. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to get rid of McCarthy. I know they're 8-3, but if something goes wrong in the playoffs, NFC West, I think everybody's safe. I don't know, maybe McVay floats out retirement again. And in the NFC North, Eberflus will be gone. So that right there is 7. And in the NFC South, yeah, there's a good chance maybe Dennis Allen or Todd Bowles are fired too. So just going through that, if all those hires happen, that's 9 right there. And this is going to be some crazy search. But without even knowing, definitely the jobs are going to be open. And we could all assume, and you know what happens when you assume. I'll say this now, even with a young quarterback that was the number 1 overall pick just a year ago, I do believe the Panthers are the least attractive destination because you can't trust the owner. And it's great that the owner's going to spend all that money and give you a fat contract, salary cap sport. And the owner needs to realize, I got to allow my football people to make the football decisions. Instead, he thinks he's the football guy. And it makes no sense, too. You get rid of Frank Reich today. Why is Scott Fitterer also the GM? Just backwards with Carolina and their circus. No Huddle Offense next. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
And away we go. Hour number 3 of our radio program. That's right. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Jason Avant, Michigan sideline reporter, former college and NFL wide receiver, is going to stop by 20 minutes from now as we'll chat some Eagles taking care of business against the Bills last night and also discuss the game from over the weekend between Michigan and Ohio State, where for the third straight year, Michigan gives Ohio State a big fat L. But first, it's time to recap what was a very, very busy week in the NFL with a little No Huddle Offense.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, we'll start things off with the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints at NFC South showdown. The NFC South, well, it's been really ugly. David Tepper today said he's going to fire Frank Reich, so they send him packing. We've already forgot about the Carolina Panthers. We knew they were eliminated back in week 3. And then you got these two teams, and Tampa Bay's really fallen off too. But the Saints and the Falcons both now at 5-6 after this one. And Atlanta, they get the dub 24-15. With that being said, these teams will meet up the final week of the season. Let's hear Desmond Ridder on a 26-yard touchdown to Bijan Robinson. This made it 21-12.
Play fake by Ridder. Blitz coming. He's going to lob it for Robinson, who makes the catch. Touchdown Atlanta. Holy smokes. They blitzed Werner, the linebacker, and all of a sudden, Desmond just looped that Jesse up in the air to Bijan Robinson.
Here's the thing. They used Bijan Robinson finally the right way. Now, I like to see him get some more carries down the stretch, but 16 carries, gets 91 yards and a touchdown. And then also, you just heard him on the receiving touchdown, 3 receptions for 32 yards. Atlanta just needs their quarterback to be a game manager. And I know Desmond Ridder had 2 interceptions in the game. He wasn't phenomenal. But Derek Carr choked. Derek Carr, early in the game, throws that pick 6 for 90-something yards. And this continues to be the Derek Carr show. And Stu, look at Stu right now. I wish you could see him on camera. He has a bleep-eating grin on his face because for years, Stu would have to go to battle and do battle with Derek Carr as his quarterback. And now Stu knows the truth about Derek Carr. He doesn't have to pretend to defend him anymore. But a lot of it was the Raiders' fault. But also a lot of Raiders fans failed to acknowledge that Derek Carr really wasn't at all that great. And anytime he looked like he was going to be a top 10 quarterback, he would take 3 or 4 steps back. But this could be the worst moment of Derek Carr's career if they don't win this division. They don't win this division with how bad this division is and how the Saints were the lock to win the division before the year started. I didn't pick them, but everyone else did. This would be as bad as it gets for Derek Carr. And I once had a Chiefs fan who covers the NFL, Eric Eager, say to me, does a great job for Sumer Sports. He goes, if Derek Carr is a favorite to ever win a division title, just fade. Go the other way. Because Eager's a Chief fan. He saw the incompetence of Derek Carr for all those years with him quarterbacking the silver and black. Stu, your reaction to Derek Carr and his woeful performance up against the Falcons?
Yeah, it's funny. Like that interception, that pick 6 he threw in the red zone. It's just he always does that. It's just he has like 2 or 3 or 4 of those a season, it seems like, that he just like they're driving, he's playing okay, and then boom. It totally flips the game by a totally bad throw like that.
And I appreciate someone believing in themselves. Like, I appreciate someone's family going to fight for their brother, which the Carr family always does. But every time Derek Carr makes a mistake, it's almost as if it's inconceivable to him how the mistake happens. Because he is a good leader. He is a good competitor. But he's not a great quarterback. And he has just this, like, blank stare when it doesn't go his way, like, oh, shucks. I'm better than that. How the heck did that happen? But when we're this many years into your career and it continues to happen, well, breaking news, Derek. You're just not that dude. All right, we'll keep it moving. Let's go to South Philadelphia, a game that I was in attendance for last night. The Eagles come on back to stun the Buffalo Bills in overtime. Josh Allen almost called game to Gabe Davis, and either Allen threw the ball to the wrong side of the end zone or Gabe Davis turned the wrong way. We still don't know. They just said it was a miscommunication. Neither side said it was their fault over the other. But Jalen Hurts gets the ball back. Eagles did make a field goal. Bills made a field goal. So Jalen Hurts, you go get a tie. It's not the worst thing in the world. No one wants to see a tie. But you would have been 9-1-1. And that chase to home field advantage would not have been a loss. And it keeps you at 1 loss on the season. But Jalen Hurts said, I'm not about tying. Zach Gelb doesn't like ties. I want outcomes. I want wins. I want losses. I don't want to tie. It's a waste with what we ask of football players. And Jalen Hurts said good night to the Buffalo Bills.
Hurts on a quarterback draw. He's at the 5. He's in. Touchdown. The Eagles win. Hurts does it again.
Oh, my God.
Hurts does it again.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
He's amazing.
Yo, there's a party at Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah, that joint was definitely hopping last night. That was a crazy atmosphere. And the Eagles do it once again where it looks like they're going to fall. It looks like they're going to find a way to drop one. And then that dude is just Superman in Jalen Hurts. He's a top 3 quarterback in the sport. Before the year, everyone said Mahomes, Burrow 1-2. Burrow now done for the season. But then the big debate for that 3rd spot was Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has surpassed Josh Allen this year. It was close. You're splitting hairs. But he surpassed Josh Allen. And Josh Allen wasn't bad in the game. He had 4 touchdowns in the game. 2 on the ground, 2 through the air. 3 of them came on 3rd down where he was like Houdini. It was insane what Josh Allen was doing. Bad interception by Josh Allen, still survived it. But with the game on the line, whether it's his fault or Gabe Davis, it doesn't matter. They've been together for too many years to make that mistake in that spot. And Buffalo just continues to lose games that you felt like they should have won. And now they're 6-6. I don't think they're making the playoffs. I can't trust them to go 4-1 down the stretch, which they are probably going to need to do if you want to feel good or have a decent chance of making the playoffs. And even if you get 10 wins, you're not a lock to make the postseason. I can't trust this team to find a way to go 4-1 and play their best football in the final 5 weeks of the season, even coming off a bye, which now they're into the bye week. And the question becomes, is it time to blow things up in Buffalo? I would assume, regardless of what he says, that Stephon Diggs had asked for a trade this offseason. Doesn't mean they'll trade him. You know Josh Allen isn't going anywhere. I don't think it's time to blow it up, but I think it's time to reset. Where you have a quarterback that should be able to be good enough to win a Super Bowl, but the coaching and the improvement has not happened ever since they lost that divisional round in just terrible fashion 2 years ago up against the Chiefs where they had the game won. It's just heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, even though I like Sean McDermott, even though I was a big fan of the McDermott hire, and he's done some really good things in Buffalo. Sometimes the guy that knocks down your house and starts to build it back up isn't the one that puts the finishing touches on the house. And you need to find a new coach. I would make a phone call to Jim Harbaugh. I'd beg him to leave Ann Arbor for Buffalo, where I think it'd be a perfect fit. Quirky guy, fits Buffalo, all that stuff. They're all football in Buffalo. That would be a home run hire. It'd be a wonderful hire. The Bills could win a Super Bowl with Jim Harbaugh as their coach. But McDermott, your time is come and gone in Buffalo. You should not be back next year. Jaguars and Texans, this game got good late. I thought that fourth quarter Stroud was happening once again. He was going to find a way to pull it out and complete another epic comeback. Matt Amendola, who's the backup kicker, going back to the Fairbairn injury. We saw Dare Ogunbowale actually kick a field goal once. He got the call. It was a 58-yard field goal. It was right down the middle, but did it have the distance? Let's listen up.
Johnson puts it down. There's the kick. The 58-yard field goal it hits the crossbar. It is no good. It hit the crossbar and came back. The field goal is no good. And the Jags take over. It'll take a knee one time. Wow. Are you kidding me?
Jaguars improved to 8-3. Needed that win up against the Texans, who they lost to early in the year by 20 points. Texans, they fall to 6-5. Trevor Lawrence in the game, 364 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Also had a rushing touchdown. C.J. Stroud continues to add through the air on his passing yards. 304 passing yards in this one. 2 touchdowns, no picks. 47 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. Nico Collins had 7 receptions for 104 yards and a touchdown. And Josh Allen, he had 2 games this year where he had 3 sacks. Well, this time 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 4 quarterback hits. He's so important to what the Jaguars do, and he's their best defensive player. And now you look at the Jaguars, they're 8-3. How confident am I in them? I think they're ceiling this year. Now, they may be better than the third best team on paper in the AFC because of their schedule. And I've been saying this since the start of the season. Don't be surprised if they get the number 2 overall seed. Maybe they get the number 1 overall seed. But I just still don't believe that in the big games, this team's going to be great. Because I look back up against Kansas City in week 2, they only put up 9 points. I look back at the 49ers, they only put up 3 points. It's a good win yesterday. It's a really good win yesterday and a much-needed win up against the Texans. And they should beat the Bengals. They should beat the Browns. But let's see what you do up against the Ravens coming up on Sunday Night Football. That's on December 17th. I think they're a good team. I don't think they're a great team. If they get to the AFC title game, would I be surprised? No, but I don't think this team gets to a Super Bowl this year, even with Peterson and as much as I love Trevor Lawrence. Chiefs-Raiders. It's looking good early for the Raiders. When Josh Jacobs had that 60-yard or 70-yard touchdown, I'm like, oh, maybe the Raiders are going to do something positive. And then I said, oh, it's the Raiders. They'll find the way to mess it up. Let's hear Rashee Rice get a 39-yard touchdown catch as the Chiefs started to pull away from the Raiders. This made it 28-17.
Watson in motion. They're going to throw a crossing pattern. Caught Rice, 30, angling 25 up the sideline, 15, inside the 5, touchdown! Kansas City! A 39-yard crossing pattern, and then zooming up the sideline, Rashee Rice with one of the biggest plays this season for the Chiefs. They have the coveted second half 2-possession lead.
Well, it's nice that they actually scored some points here in the second half, because before this game yesterday was 3 straight games where they did not score a single point in the second half, where they lost to the Broncos, they beat the Dolphins, and they lost to the Eagles. And it's funny to me, on a lot of these national shows and a lot of these debate shows, after last week, everyone said the Chiefs' offense has major problems. Now with the good offensive performance up against the Raiders, people are saying Kansas City's offense is back. That's the most egregious thing you could do as a talk show host, is when you're going up against a bad team, think that a team is back just because they started to play better. They should play better up against a bad team. So, yeah, it's nice Rashee Rice goes 8 for $107. It's nice that Travis Kelce goes for 6 for 91. It's nice that Sky Moore adds into the party. Justin Watson gets into the end zone. But here's been my point on Kansas City all year. The defense is the strength of this team this season. Eventually, Mahomes will figure it out, and you don't need to be great this year, and maybe you just need to be good to get to the Super Bowl. But after a good offensive performance against the Raiders, even though they got off to a little bit of a slow start, I need to sit here and say that Kansas City's offense, all of a sudden I have all this confidence in them? No. Even when they're not playing well, they're still solid. They still got a chance, because 15 could do things that we've never seen. And, like last week, even when he puts the ball right on the money, Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropped the football. They could still win the Super Bowl this year, but right now, I'm not ready to say all of a sudden now we have to fear, outside of 15 and 87, this offense, because I still can't trust anybody else. All righty, let's keep it moving. Ravens and Chargers, final game. Zay Flowers, 37-yard touchdown run. This puts the game away as the Ravens take care of business up against the LA Chargers.
Brings Flowers in motion to the left. He gives it to Flowers on the jet sweep. He cuts inside the numbers. He's in the 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Ravens! The Zay is in the barn, and the Ravens knock out the Chargers in LA.
That's a good call by Jerry with the G, Jerry Sandusky on the Ravens radio network. He usually says the hay is in the barn, the Zay is in the barn. Well, Job gets a rushing touchdown for 37 yards, also had 5 receptions for 25 yards and a receiving score. So Ravens, they go to 9-3. They try to continue their quest to maybe be the number 1 seed in the NFL or in the AFC. And then the Chargers fall to 4-7. And all eyes on the Chargers now goes to their head football coach, because the Chargers have so much talent. I know they're dealing with injuries, but everyone's dealing with injuries. It stinks that Joey Bosa's out, but this team has too much talent to be 4-7. There's one thing where going into the year, if the Chargers are going to miss the playoffs with how loaded the AFC is, you couldn't say that, it's inconceivable that they would miss the playoffs. But for them to already have 7 losses through 12 weeks, that's inconceivable to me. And Brandon Staley should have been fired. He should have been fired weeks ago. But the Chargers haven't done that. I think he'll make it to the end of the season. It's pointless, but at the end of the season, the Chargers will wave bye-bye to Brandon Staley. They don't do that, then Dean Spanos is maybe the biggest dope in the NFL, or the cheapest dope in the NFL. But there's only a year remaining on the contract. And that's the thing. Right now, David Tepper appears to be the worst owner in the NFL because of how much he just can't keep his hand out of the cookie jar and how he won't let his football people do what they want to do. Somehow, some way, Dean Spanos brings back Brandon Staley next year and he gets the 4th year of his contract. He would then be the dumbest owner in the NFL. All righty, that is your No Huddle Offense in the NFL. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We'll come on back. We will be joined by Jason Avant, who, of course, is the Michigan sideline reporter now. That's where he played his college ball. Also spent some years in Philadelphia as well, and Kansas City. We'll get his thoughts on the Chiefs. We'll get his thoughts on the Eagles. Maybe even sprinkle in a little Buffalo Bills as well. And, of course, we have to talk about that crazy atmosphere in Ann Arbor that I was in attendance for on Saturday for the game, as we will chat it up with one Jason Avant, who will join the Zach Gelb Show when we return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Jason Avant, he is the man. Jason Avant has got great hands. Jason Avant says, Avant, you catch a lot of balls, yeah. Jason Avant is a great receiver for the Eagles. He's Jason Avant, he's a fine man, I like him a lot. Oh, Jason Avant. He catches everything that gets thrown in his general direction. He's a tremendous athlete. Yeah, Jason Avant. He's very good at catching balls. A ball gets thrown to Jason Avant. He catches it. That's what he does. He's a wonderful person. He's a wonderful man. He is an eagle. He flies up in the air and he catches the ball. Oh, Jason Avant. He's a wonderful catcher of balls. Oh, Jason Avant. He's so good at what he does.
What a song. So I told Samter today, I go, I know Jason Avant pretty well, through my good friend Josh Weinfeld. So I go, we got to bring on Jason Avant, sideline reporter from Michigan, former Michigan football player, played with the Eagles, the Chiefs as well. They're always in the news. And he goes, Jason Avant. He goes, when I used to produce Jim Rome or was working with the Jim Rome show, they would play this Jason Avant song. And I had no damn clue that Jason Avant actually had a song about him that a fan made up. And Jason Avant joins us right now. Jason, I think that's the best introduction you're ever going to get. And I didn't have to say a damn word. I just had to play the song.
Oh, my gosh. That song, man, I got ridiculed by my teammates so badly because of that song over the years. Shout out to the fan that made it, but it is annoying for sure.
When did you first find out about it? What was that, 2013, 2012, something like that?
Yeah, Derek Boyko, he's the guy. He's the
former PR guy. Yeah.
The PR guy for the Eagles. Now he's with the Buffalo Bills. He told me about it, and he played it for me. And I was like, are you serious right now? And Rome would faithfully play that song. I don't know what it was, but he loved that song.
Who was the teammate that gave you the most crap for the song in the locker room?
Oh, my gosh. Probably Jeremy Maclin or Deshaun, dude. Oh, Jason Avant.
That's absolutely great. So I know you're real happy. I was at the game. I actually, in my drunk state, tailgating in the parking lot, I thought I saw Jason Avant quickly, maybe showing up a little bit late to the stadium. I thought it was you from afar. When did you end up getting into the stadium? Just wondering.
Well, I ended up getting to the stadium at 10. So I don't know how late that was, but
that's not late.
Getting to the stadium at 10, and then I had to go and do some appearances and then head to the field.
Oh, so you were out of the stadium, and then you went in the stadium, you went out of the stadium, then came back in?
And came back into the stadium. So if you saw me, and if I was on a golf cart, that could have been me for sure.
I'm pretty sure it was you. And I was like, yo, Jason. And the golf cart just kept cruising. So
kept moving.
I'm glad you came on today. I heard your interview after the game with Chris Jenkins. The emotion was awesome. But you being on the sideline for that one, how did you process Michigan up against Ohio State, where your Wolverines take care of the Buckeyes for the third straight season?
Well, you know what? It's pretty dynamic because when you really consider it, Ohio State has been stockpiling talent for so many years, and they are, 3 deep at every position. I would say Michigan is about 1.5 deep, and we're going to have struggles after this year when it comes to replacing all this NFL talent. So you know that you're kind of undermanned from my professional opinion when it comes to just talent. But the grittiness of this team, the mindset that they have after their coach, they believe that they can beat Ohio State and they win in the trenches. And for some reason, Ryan Day wanted to play Michigan's game when he's not built for that. Ohio State has been known for having wide receivers and cornerbacks, and they play the game on the edge, accumulating and scoring a lot of points. This year, they wanted to be Michigan and try to bully Michigan at their own game, which wasted opportunities to get the ball to Marvin Harrison. So thank you, Ryan Day, for doing that, trying to be Michigan instead of being Ohio State, which you could have scored a lot of points because we do have some weaknesses in our secondary, but he wasn't able to expose it because he wanted to be like Michigan instead of being Ohio State.
And that was the only chance that they had because Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he only had 4 or 5 catches, he still goes for over 100 yards, and he's their best player. We all know that. He's going to be a top 3 pick in the draft, but it's amazing how they didn't get him more involved in the offense. They should have lived and died by him, and they waited too long to get him really going.
Yeah, it seemed like both coaches at the beginning of the game for sure were hesitant to make mistakes because, you want to win the rushing yardage. You want to win the turnover battle. And at some point, you have to open up the game plan and you have to go to your weapons. You have, Buka, you have Marvin Harrison, you have Fleming, who made some outstanding catches. These guys are going to play on Sunday, and Marvin Harrison is literally top 10 receivers in the NFL as soon as he arrives there, and especially in the right system. So with that being said, I'm throwing him the ball at least 20 times in that game. That's just how it's going to be if I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm going to make sure that my best player is spotlighted, but that's the danger of having your best player in a secondary position. What do I mean by that? The quarterback has to play well in order to get the receiver the ball. The offensive line has to block well in order to get the receiver the ball. The running back has to protect. So many people have to protect. So you can, as like Ryan Day did, isolate or just freeze him out of the game plan because he's a secondary position. So I'm glad it wasn't a quarterback as the best player or a running back because we'd have been in world trouble.
And all throughout the year, that's why I thought Michigan was going to beat Ohio State. Even though J.J. McCarthy isn't the greatest quarterback in the world, he's a damn good quarterback. He's experienced, and he's gotten better through time at Michigan. And I believed he was going to make the big throws where McCord, you even look back at that Notre Dame game, he should have thrown a pick, and then Notre Dame dropped it. And then with the game on the line, he throws the interception. And when you have an experienced team like Michigan, they're just not going to drop that football.
Yeah, 100% of the time. And JJ, you know what? JJ is efficient. He's a very underrated athlete. And check this out. He has NFL arm talent. I do a show, a podcast with Greg Cosell, who does tape breakdown every week. And he asked me about him, and he said he watched him this offseason. He's like, oh, he's going to be a first-day pick because of his arm talent. So JJ is definitely an upper echelon quarterback. Does he have the weapons that, Ohio State has? He doesn't have those weapons, but Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson are definitely NFL wide receivers. So, yes, the difference, that's one of the differences. Kyle McCord, I think that he can throw the ball well. I just think that he's young, and young teams don't know how to win. And it's hard to be a young quarterback and win in a game of that magnitude, not experiencing it for the first time. He may have better luck next year and in following years, but that first time and that environment, you saw how the big house was rocking.
Crazy.
It was electric from an hour before the game. There was so much buildup, so many people on the sideline, Derek Jeter, Charles Woodson, so many people out there, and I don't necessarily know if he was built for that moment.
The other thing, too, and I thought JJ, who I do believe still has another level to get to, but he made a great throw to Roman Wilson on that third down for the touchdown. Now, the throw is great, and you're a wide receiver, and I have no clue what a catch is, but a lot of people are saying, nope, that was a touchdown. Other people thought it should have been a fumble that Ohio State recovered. Take the Michigan side out of it. How did you look at that one, and what did you think about it, not only in the moment, but then once the game did end?
Yeah, college or NFL rules, that would have been a touchdown. College or NFL rules, right? Because there's no surviving the ground element when it comes to the goal line.
Yeah.
When it comes to breaking the plane, there is no surviving the ground element to that, right? So once you break the plane with possession, right, he hit the ball, the defender hit the ball, he reestablished possession over the goal line, and when they went to the ground, he was able to get it out, right? So, and I don't know if any person that really investigates football or watches football can say that wasn't a touchdown. There was other questionable calls in the game, but I won't put my hat on that particular call in and of itself. Every game is going to go, this way or that way. But when it comes to outrushing a team, Michigan did that. When it came to turnover margin, Michigan did that. When it came to the environment needed in order to beat Ohio State, which I believe was the more talented team, Michigan was able to check that box. And hats off to Jim Harbaugh. All of this scrutiny, all of the things that everybody else does in the country, right? When it comes to scouting and figuring out signals, it's hard as hell to decode a signal. Let me just tell you that right now. Because being in the NFL and being in college, if I hear a guy, I go back to the sideline and say, hey, you know what? He has our slant signal. The coach said, okay, let's keep the signal the same, but on the next play, let's run sluggo. It's so hard, slant and go. It's so hard to decode and all those things. So Michigan was prepared for the game, and you can say a call here, there, whatever. At the end of the day, Ohio State had the ball with a minute to go, which is an eternity in college football because the first down stops on the clock stops on the first down. They had an opportunity to win the game. They didn't do it. Michigan prevailed.
And the other thing was, I never thought Michigan was going to lose the game until that pass was completed, then it was fumbled, then it was recovered. And I'm like, man, Michigan may lose this game, and the next thing you know, it's an interception. That, to me, is the most demoralizing part of this loss for Ohio State is Michigan, I thought, could have played better, and Ohio State still wasn't good enough to beat Michigan in this contest.
Well, that's the truth. Michigan, over the last, I would say, 3 games, hadn't played up to their standard. And partly Well, the reason is we haven't been able to protect. So in the Penn State game, Chop Robinson and Adisa, their two defensive ends, kind of exposed us.
Yeah.
And we scrapped the game plan. We scrapped the game plan and just started running the ball. And we've kind of stuck with that over the last couple of weeks because in Maryland, our pass protection is kind of broken down. And I believe that when Zach Zenner went out of the game, they actually blocked better for some reason because Carson Barnhart, with most NFL scouts that I talked to on the sideline, is more geared to play guard, and Trente Jones is better at pass protection. So I thought that kind of evened them out. So with all that being said, Michigan hasn't played their best football yet this season. But when Harbaugh comes back, we're 10 points better than we are without him. So I believe that that's going to be a solidifying factor. And I can't wait for the moment when Michigan is hoisting the Big Ten trophy and Tony Petitti has to hand Harbaugh that trophy. And there's going to be a big FU for
a lot of boos are going to be happening there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, my NFL team, the Patriots, I was there for 28-3 when Goodell, after the comeback, had to hand the trophy over to the Patriots. It's one of the best things, and I can't wait to see that. One more on the game with Jason Avant here with us. Does a great job on the sidelines for Michigan, former Michigan player, played in the NFL with the Eagles and also the Kansas City Chiefs. You talked about Ryan Day earlier and his lack of aggressiveness. With what you just pointed out with how Jim Harbaugh was in the sidelines, allowed to be there during the week but not on game day, Sherrone Moore, who's done a nice job, he should be a head coach somewhere one day. That's what's even more inconceivable to me is that Moore was more aggressive than Ryan Day, who already lost 2 games and had a chance to really throw it back in the Michigan fans' face and basically take the weak way out and go up. It was just a sign-stealing scandal the last 2 years, and the guy still was pretty much a coward in coaching and had no aggressiveness in the game.
You know what? He was so hell-bent on the stat that the last, whoever wins the rushing battle in the Ohio State-Michigan game, that was the team that was going to win and the team that protected the ball. So I just think that he deviated from his game plan and who the team is and how he's built the team. Like I said, this team has had so many first-round receivers, Olave and Jigba, Marvin Harrison. There are so many guys in history that they've built the program around. And I believe that if you can pass the ball successfully, McCord is super accurate. That's the one thing that I came away saying is that, Michigan has some competition in these next few years because McCord is accurate. He threw some dimes in that game. And so I just thought that he deviated from the game plan and he kind of lost his identity somewhere. And it could have been talking to Urban Meyer because Urban Meyer had Zeke Elliott and they were able to run the ball and be successful and throw it and run and have this balance. But the truth of the matter is that you have to know your personnel. That's like the number one rule in football. Every coach, every player will tell you, KYP, know your personnel, know what we're built for. We're built to throw the football because of what we have on the outside. Do that and do it better than most, and don't worry about the history and the stats. Let's do what we do best. And I think that he just lost his mind when it came to that game.
How about your Eagles, Jason Avant? 10-1, another game where, they didn't show up in the first half, and they're going up against a solid team in Buffalo's not playing up to their abilities. And then Jalen Hurts just gets in his bag, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That was unbelievable last night.
What a game. And I had to go in, I do CBS, local television. I had to go in, and I had to be there by 9, and I'm like, looking at the clock and trying to get out, but I wanted to see the whole overtime game. Jalen Hurts, man, he's unflappable. That's just who he is. There's always an adjustment when you're playing in the rain because the rain is very, very scary for the offensive coordinator. It's scary for the team because you can't execute your offense the way that you want to execute it, because if you make a mistake and you turn the football over, you're down, and it's very, very hard to come back in the rain. And I believe that Josh Allen and playing in Buffalo and playing in inclement weather, you know what it's like being in that region, right? It's always bad weather. And Philadelphia misses a lot of that. So I thought that the Buffalo Bills were more prepared to play in that situation. But in the second second half, when they made adjustments, they started to go to the outside zone, and Jalen began to realize that it doesn't matter if it's raining, snowing, if there's a hurricane. Devontae Smith has excellent hands. He was the only receiver the entire day catching the ball with his hands in a torrential downpour the entire day. So I believe that Jalen just put on his Superman cape, and everyone believes in him. That's the thing that you know about this team. The entire team believes in Jalen Hurts, and he does it week after week. And you can say it's luck. You can say, oh, the Chiefs dropped the ball. The Bills didn't get this call. But the one thing that you cannot say, if this team doesn't fight and that Jalen Hurts is not a winner, that's what he does. He's built for these moments.
Last thing I'll ask you, and I don't know if you could tell, but when you look back at the Josh Allen to Gabe Davis play, was that on the quarterback or was that on the wide receiver, which forced Buffalo to take the field goal?
It's 100% on the quarterback, 100%. So here's what happened in that play. So Sean Desai, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, threw an all-out pressure, right? That's a zero blitz. That's man-to-man. It's off-man. It's going to be inside leverage for the cornerbacks. And Gabe Davis had a corner route. That was the route. Josh Allen knew that the pressure would get there, and he just threw it to a spot rather than throwing it to the spot that mattered the most. The receiver can't adjust in that situation. You can say, oh, he beat him off the line or whatever it is. No, the receiver can't adjust. That's a corner route, and you throw it to the corner. So Josh Allen could have made a critical, timely throw. All he had to do was lay it up in the back of the end zone in the direction of Gabe Davis, and they would have won the football game, but he didn't show up in that moment. And I get so tired of the quarterback being the one that gets all of the getting out of jail free cards, right? This one was on the quarterback. Gabe Davis was right, and you can see how right he was when he slammed his helmet down. Guys are not, that angry when they, are the one that made the mistake.
Jason Avant, I know you enjoyed that Michigan victory. I know you enjoyed that Eagles victory as well. We'll be talking to you, I'm sure, throughout the season. We appreciate the time. Always good to catch up.
Zach, it's so good to see you, buddy.
You got it. There he is, Jason Avant. And we also went a little throwback with that phenomenal Jason Avant song. I've never heard that. Good find by Samter right there. That was an absolute classic. We'll come on back with 3 college football takes. But first, here's the latest CBS Sports Radio update with the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, Panthers owner David Tepper is going through coaches pretty quickly. On to another, the 5th, after firing Frank Reich following a 1-10 start. Now he has gone through Ron Rivera, who he inherited. Matt Rule didn't make it through 3 seasons under Tepper, and now, once again, looking for a new head coach as special teams coach Chris Tabor takes over in the interim. The Bears host the Vikings, looking to halt a 5-game skid in the series. Justin Fields returned last week and rushed for over 100 yards. Bears quarterback also threw for 169 and would like to air it out a little more tonight.
To be honest, I feel like deep balls, just in general, I feel like that's kind of what I do best, to be honest with you. I think I throw the ball down the field exceptionally. I feel like, it's one of my strengths, and, I've been doing it since, high school, college. So, I think it's one thing that I do best.
Browns pass rusher Myles Garrett is just day-to-day with an injured left shoulder, while the Jaguars have placed tackle Cam Robinson on injured reserve. The Minnesota Wild have fired head coach Dean Evison, with the team mired in a 7-game losing streak, and Sonny Gray reportedly signs a 3-year deal with the Cardinals. I'm Rich Eck.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. We're from the Backstreet Boys, and you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God, we're back again.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And right now it's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day. And it's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Billy Z in Chicago asks, Zach, who do you like tonight in the Bears-Vikings game? You can submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think the Bears will lose tonight up against the Vikings. I do believe the Vikings improved to 7-5. I did see the spread was Minnesota minus 3.5. I think that hook plays a factor in it. If I'm taking a side there, I would plus the 3.5 with the Bears, but I like the Vikings to win the game. But the gambling play I did make on the game was actually an anytime touchdown. Josh Dobbs at plus 190. So I'll sprinkle money on and I already did, on the anytime touchdown line, and that will be my only play tonight between the Vikings and the Bears. But first, let's wrap up the show with 3 college football takes, and we will start things off with Michigan with the game on the line, and maybe it looking like, all right, here comes Ohio State. They're going to snatch a victory out of the jaws of defeat and find a way to win a game that they did not have a lead for a single second. And this is the Michigan Radio Network on Kyle McCord throwing an interception to end the game.
McCord in a shotgun. Back to pass. Looking. Here comes the rush. He's hit as he throws, and it is intercepted. The Wolverines pick it off. It's the Ohio native, Rod Moore. And the Wolverines, if this counts, Rod Moore has ended the ball game.
So when that play happened in the stadium, I'm going nuts. There was like 100 Ohio State fans standing next to me. My buddy and I were standing up on the bleachers. O-H-N-O! Enjoy the trip home! And we're starting to wave to them. And then I turn around and I look at the flag. And you heard the announcer capture it perfectly. If this is going to count. And there was a delay in calling the flag and then had nothing to do on the play. It was after the play. They pick up the hanky. And they make the call, and it's still Michigan football. Michigan wins the game. But how that game ended was very fitting because you knew that was going to be the demise of Ohio State this year, the quarterback play. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is a stud. He's the only reason why they had a chance to go win the game. But ultimately, McCord right now in his career is just not the dude that is needed to win a game like that. And I referenced the Notre Dame play earlier to Jason Avant. And I said it earlier in the show as well. Against Notre Dame, and we all remember at the end of the game where Notre Dame has 12 men on the field, and on the game-winning, they only had 10 men on the field when they needed 11, and they allowed the game-winning touchdown. Everyone talks about that play. But earlier in that drive, McCord threw what should have been an interception. Notre Dame dropped it. Michigan, who had a pick earlier in the game, which is pretty cool in the stadium, Charles Woodson does the pump-up video, legendary number 2 at Michigan, and then number 2 makes the interception. I don't know if they captured that on the broadcast. It was right from the pump-up video. You're back from the commercial break, and boom, there's the interception. So that was pretty neat, and at the end of the game, you knew Moore makes the play because McCord is just not ready in that moment to go get the ball, get the final 40 yards, and get the ball in the end zone. College football take number 2. Texas A&M fans. You are the most delusional college football fans and the dumbest college football fans. I just saw they were introducing Mike Elko as the head coach, and they're swaying back and forth. The whole thing is just creepy. It really is. And they do that chant the night before the game. It's just all so creepy. It's very culty-like. But with that being said, I like Mike Elko. As I said earlier, I wanted Mike Elko to coach my alma mater a few years ago in Temple. Mike Elko's a damn good football coach. But A&M fans freaking out when A&M wanted to hire Mark Stoops and making it out as if it was the most egregious thing ever. Have you watched college football last decade or so? Because Mark Stoops has won 10 games twice at Kentucky. Once again, Kentucky. Imagine what he could have done with the resources of A&M. The dude comes from a great football family. The dude is a good coach. He's been one of the more underrated coaches in the country. Doesn't mean the Elko hire is a bad hire. But the process and how they got to Elko, who was their defensive coordinator a few years ago before taking the Duke job, was sloppy. Because they wanted Stoops over Elko. But the fans had a problem with it. I don't get why they had a problem with it. And then finally, let's listen up. This is Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson, because the radio calls were terrible. I was listening to the radio calls Santos before the show. Such an iconic moment. You thought the radio calls, that's what everyone loves. A great college radio call. Announcers going nuts. But the Auburn radio network, the Alabama radio network, the calls were terrible. We'll listen up to Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson on CBS on the Milroe Miracle. 4th and a milli, they're calling it. 4th and 31. 4th and goal at the 31. And this is how the Iron Bowl goes in favor of Alabama.
But there's a lot of airspace to cover for Milroe. Still looking. Firing. Near corner. It's caught! Touchdown, Alabama! Isaiah Bond on a 4th and a mile. 31 yards. Touchdown tie.
We always keep thinking we've seen it all, and we never have we?
Yeah, I've never seen that. Yeah, we've seen walk-off, or it wasn't a walk-up, but we've seen long touchdowns on 4th and long, things like that. But how a 4th and goal got to the 31, and then you throw a 31-yard touchdown. I know Milroe, the play before, was in front of the line of scrimmage, had a legal forward pass. That was just bonkers. But what's even more bonkers is that Auburn allowed it to happen. And how about the growth of Milroe this year? And also, it just shows you when Alabama's vulnerable, it's not the way that we look at every other team being vulnerable. Because Alabama being vulnerable still means one loss in week 2 of the season to Texas, and now they're going to go play for an opportunity to win the SEC championship game this weekend against Georgia. Now, you knew that going into the game, but if they would have lost to Auburn, poof, there goes their college football playoff chances, even if they won the SEC championship. So that's just bonkers that Bama, who had a great third quarter against Tennessee a few weeks ago when it looked like their season was done, but now the season really was on life support, even with the SEC championship still on the line next week, and Milroe makes an incredible play. All righty, that's the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll be back tomorrow for a very busy Tuesday show. We're here for 5 days this week coming off the holiday. So we'll get you all covered leading into Conference Championship Week, another busy weekend in the NFL. We appreciate you. Thanks so much. Talk to you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern.